Thank you very much, everybody. We will continue our meeting from recess of January 22nd, 2019. And if you would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And thank you. Okay, this evening, before we get to public comment up tonight, we'll have the middle school, high school, and Department of Instruction presentations and questions to be asked. And again, we will be recessing at 10 o'clock at the latest, so let's be cognizant of that, and hopefully the weather will cooperate with us for next week. So with that being said, any public comment? See a lot of public out there.
No comment.
All right, well, we'll get a second chance at it, so I want to hear from somebody. All right, thank you very much.
If I might just make 2 points of information before we launch in. One is we have a little less than 3 hours, so each of our presenters should take about 15 or 20 minutes to run through their presentation, about 10 or 15 minutes for board questions, and then the balance of the hour for going line by line, page by page, as you've been doing. So we'll do our best to keep that pace so we can finish on time. Second, for board members who have questions about items that we'll be talking about next week, if you can, get those to Anthony and me by the end of this week. You don't have to, but if you already know you have questions, they're going to come up Tuesday. If we can get ahead of the game so that we're not trying to answer a whole pile of questions in the middle of the night before your January 30th final vote, that would be appreciated. If you have questions at the last minute, of course, we'll do our best.
And I would also urge you can call central office at any time as well, or myself.
Operators are standing by to take your call.
Okay, thank you. With that being said, Mr. Longo.
Yes. Well, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to propose Schaghticoke's budget. As all the principals and all the presenters have started with the mission statement, and I've highlighted a couple words that I think are really critical to Schaghticoke and how our budget aligns to not only district initiatives and vision, but also what we do at the building level. And it's very important, as you know, in the middle school to then provide that bridge to the high school where we can do a lot more with the dreams and aspirations that it's at the end of the mission statement. Our core values are linked to SURGE. Several years we've used SURGE. We embody everything we do there, from academics to student and staff belonging to the aspirations as well. Our students are very familiar with this, and not only did they know the acronym 2 years ago, but now they're at a point where they can give examples of each, and we have this posted in the classroom, and now we have students actually referencing it. So we're very proud of everything we do linked to SURGE. So the 3 pieces that I'll be focusing on are the link to the district vision, and the first is student belonging. We are in the second year of the PBIS, Positive Behavioral Interventions and Support. We're working with consultants to look at how we align positive experiences for students and how we look at data and link it to discipline, and looking at restorative ways to help our students, and also to work closely with our staff in supporting not only the administration but helping the students in what's best for them. The scientific research-based intervention, SRBI, we are utilizing that again this year to really look closely at the interventions for students who are in need of support in specific areas, and this is a criteria that we use with our teams and all our students and our department leaders that trickles down to students in an effort before we get to the special education route and looking for more Tier 2 or Tier 3 interventions. Some of the other things on that list you're very familiar with, the field trips that the Board of Ed has approved in the past. We've had several years of going on those team building field trips, which really align to the student belonging. We have a student council, a Leo club, of course our band and chorus, and several clubs, activities, interscholastic sports, and the unified sports program, which I'll speak about later. Also under student belonging, we have several initiatives to help at the middle school. It can be a difficult age in trying to look at addressing bullying and providing students with that support as they navigate through the middle school years. Many of these initiatives that we have come out of the Sandy Hook Foundation, and they're also linked to our PBIS model. We also have the Never Too Busy letters, which teachers write to students. We do that every 2 to 3 faculty meetings, and we have the Surge On letters, which are new this year, which are very interesting in that students get notes from me and our administrators, and we send them to teachers, and it's kind of a surprise for students. Of course, we have the high school. We have connections there, specifically the names visit, where the club comes down here and works with our 8th graders in transitioning to the next year. And I want to thank Angie for reaching out to us with the food pantry that the high school has established, and now we are in the beginning of utilizing that for students in need and working through our support services and our guidance in that area. There's a lot on this slide, and I know Ms. DeCorpo is going to speak quite a bit about the first box at the top with the district initiatives, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but all of our schools are part of these district initiatives, the Columbia's Teachers College in Reading and Writing, and Connected Math, for example. You'll hear more about science. We have a co-teaching model with special education and regular ed in our classrooms. Of course, we have grade level PLCs at the building level where the teachers can analyze formative assessment data and look at how we can assist students in areas of need, and also look at where we can challenge them further in areas that they are strong. We're very fortunate to have coaches that work with our schools and support our departments, and of course the administrative training through revision is something that we've been working through and now have trickled down to the building level where our administrators are working on giving very meaningful feedback to our teachers through the evaluation process. We are working on the CCT, the Connecticut Common Core of Teaching, and looking very closely specifically at the instructional domain and looking at ways to grow for our teachers so that therefore our students get the best instruction possible. We have a wonderful, talented, and gifted program here at Schaghticoke, and we thank Dr. D. St. Croix for all the work she does, grades 3 and up. Summer Algebra Readiness is a nice initiative that we have that Ms. DeCorpo will speak about later for our math department. And I did want to speak about the 2 positions that are in the budget, one of which is looking at special education and looking at the K-5 special ed director, and then having a SPED director at 6 through 12. That is going to help us tremendously if we are able to have a 6 through 12. The amount of time that our administrators spend chairing PPTs and sitting in on meetings takes us away from the classroom and takes us away from students. We have a vested interest and we want to be part of the PPT process, but I really think that having that director is going to help tremendously with the data. It's going to bring down the amount of hours that we're out of the classroom, and linking it then to the other position, which is the Director of Curriculum Instruction, that will help our team leaders and our administrators at the building level to really frame our curriculum in a way where, again, we can deliver the best instruction and have good practices in looking at data and how to move forward. Also in the academic realm, we've been working on reading. Our reading scores have been improving. We are happy to look at our SBAC results and see a modest gain of about 5 or 6% from last year to this year. And I think some of the things we're doing to inspire a reading culture, we've had 3 or 4 initiatives so far, and we want to continue that and get all departments involved, not just our English department. I talked a little bit about our assessments, our teams, and our PLCs. These are the meetings of our grade level departments. They are working very closely on calibrating their assessments so that regardless of the teacher, we're not only delivering the instruction, but also we have a way where we can measure student growth and make the informed decisions moving forward. We have supports for students in the academic outside of the classes that we offer, and those are through learning labs. We have ELA labs and math labs for our special education population. We have study halls, which in the past year, we've now put students on team study halls, so they're actually with their teachers. We spent many hours in working the master schedule to make that, and we rely on that for the support because a lot of times the students are going home and they're not able to really focus on work at home, so we need to provide opportunities here at school. And we have other opportunities like homework club and academic fitness that will help support the students outside of the classroom. In the student aspirations category, those are some of the examples of specifics. We're looking at expanding the use of Naviance at the middle school to include student goal setting and taking it a step further past our developmental guidance lessons that we already have. We have a Project Lead the Way program that we'd like to expand, and I'll speak about that when we get into that specific line. This is the first year that we have our bilingual teacher in place, which has helped with the EL population that we have, and working very closely with those English language learners is crucial, and looking at the data and how we can support them and provide support. So there are some lines in my budget where I'll let you know about where those resources are coming from, because it definitely is a need at Schaghticoke, and if you look at Sarah Noble, our numbers are indicating that we really do need that support in place. We're working on our transition to 6th grade. We're looking for opportunities to collaborate, Mrs. Bilko and I, and then also working with Mr. Shagru on the transition to 9th grade. And we have many opportunities, as you know, and we're very proud of our unified sports, which takes our special education students and our regular ed in working together and competing against schools in other districts. There's other things on the list. I'm not going to go through each, but we just finished our geography beat today. Dr. Tracy was in attendance.
I got mine right.
Yep.
I knew where New York was. Okay.
It was a semi-guess, but...
And we are making efforts to reach out to the community, such as the Lions Club poster contest, which our winner will be recognized this week, I believe, at the VFW. And we just had our incoming freshman evening the other night, I think it was last Thursday. Our school climate goal, again, focuses around those 3 areas of belonging, aspirations, and student engagement. And now to take you through some of the lines that I wanted to highlight. And the first is the general instruction BLD 10,000 line. And these are 2 lines. I put them on the same slide because I wanted you to see the Chromebooks that we're requesting this year along with the licenses. You're going to see from 1819 up to 1920. It's something like it'll jump off the page when you look at the budget binder. And I attribute a lot of that to this is definitely a need at the middle school. Last year, this line was cut throughout the budget process, and we were unable to purchase the Chromebooks that we needed. So this year, we're looking to provide those supports in some of the departments so that we can do more with the Chromebooks and then allow students to have more hands-on experiences. So the first line across is the licenses and the Chromebooks and the carts together in that one line off to the right.
So the top one is the Chromebooks and the licenses?
The licenses is the first row, and then the second row, 56,500, is the Chromebooks and the carts together.
Okay.
And how many Chromebooks is that?
So it's 88 Chromebooks and 8 carts.
And how many Chromebooks do you have now?
We're still inventorying right now, and we've been working with technology and assistant principal, Mrs. Atakanis and I, and our count right now unofficially is around 700 or so. With the projected student enrollment of 943 last year, it is a goal of ours to try to get a Chromebook cart in every classroom. Right now, there are times when we have to sign them out and wheel them around, and we have some departments that have a set as well. But we're really in the process of trying to get to that. It really is a tool that we utilize very, very often at Scatterco. In the science, this is a very important line because Ms. DeCorpo will speak about it in her presentation, but we are adjusting our curriculum. It already aligned to NGSS standards, but we're taking the next step of looking at curriculum and looking at CREC. And that's the Capital Regional Education Council. Okay, thank you. We also have some new science teachers, so we're trying to work on some resources there. And the increase there is really due to this new curriculum that we're going to infuse in our program and the needs for our science department. Next, we move on. This is the Project Lead the Way line. There's an increase of there's an increase of 2,000. We do want to expand that program. We want to try to open up more sections. We're currently working on next year's schedule and looking at how we can increase the opportunity because that course is not offered every day to students. So we want to try to add another day or two during the week so that more students are able to have that opportunity. And then, of course, they'll be better equipped and prepared to jump right into the intro courses at the high school and then really work on that path and explore those interests.
Where is PTO, where is this in the budget book? Do you know? Okay.
Page 23.
Page 20.
Is it still 23?
Yeah.
I don't see PTOW.
It doesn't say PLD.
It won't say it that way.
It says, it probably says tech.
It's in the tech.
Under science?
No.
No, it's tech ed on the bottom there.
We'll find it.
The bottom of page 23, Tammy?
Right.
Okay.
The list.
Okay,
Yes, it's tech ed.
gotcha.
The last thing.
Okay. The increase in the BLD 24143, this is professional services, 53,200. This jump is due to police coverage. Last year, we had police cover events, don't get us wrong, but we did not have that in that line. So we had to make a transfer in order to accommodate that, and this year we're placing the funds in the correct line so that, and last year there was only 400 in that account. So in order to cover the police coverage at promotion and looking at traffic outside and then evening events and things like that, that's definitely a need for us to put in that line.
Question, how much did we transfer to cover that line item last year?
The cost last year was between $3,200 and $3,500.
And so we transferred it to adjust that line item, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Thank you.
And Anthony, you could probably confirm by looking back to last year at specifics,
Great,
yeah.
thank you.
And then you probably recall last year there was a request for some furniture that didn't make it through. And this year there are some items that I believe are very important to assist in programming at our school. For example, the breakdown here will be some of the rectangular tables for ELA classrooms. They really support the workshop model where teachers can deliver a mini lesson and then students can do some independent work. And then teachers will be able to conference with students and give them individualized attention while other students can do their reading or work upon the part of the lesson that links to the Teachers College curriculum and our curriculum. Also, there are a few standing desks in there. We found success with those, and we have some classrooms that really benefit from that. And then Yep, so those are the three. So those are the three different categories, and the zero from last year there was a request there that was cut one of the rounds throughout the budget process. So this year the request is $4,490. In the special education BSD 111, there's an increase from 0 to 1,200, and this is due to our unified sports program. We had a grant from Connecticut Association of Schools. It's a one-year grant for $2,000. They actually were generous enough to donate $1,000 last year, and we did actually get $1,000 this year as well, which is nice. But after the first, we're not supposed to get. So they were actually nice enough to extend it, but this next year we won't have that money. So we have $1,200 budgeted there to cover that grant that we've used to pay for transportation, to look at unified sports, and materials that we would need, such as the T-shirts that the students have, and any of the materials that would be used. But that grant was used primarily for transportation to other schools. Okay. Thank you very much, and I'll take any questions you have.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Have a question, Dave?
Hang on. Cowboy. Okay.
Cowboy. Cowboy. I hate the Cowboys.
Come on.
Have a question.
Yes, sir.
Chromebooks and carts. Do you guys organize it around your teams? Like each team get a certain amount of carts with the Chromebooks?
Yes.
And then you sign it out within the team?
Currently, we have one per team, and the team leader houses the Chromebook, and the team shares the cart. So it would travel around within the area of the building for that team. Our Unified Arts do not have them in their rooms, so we have carts through a Google Sheet where we actually sign them out. So the Unified Arts teachers like health and art and the world language departments and everything, they would actually sign out and utilize the Chromebooks that way.
So the addition you'd like to have will add a cart to each team, so there'll be 2 carts to each team? Is that what I'm
Well,
hearing?
right now there is a cart per team.
Right.
But we have replaced, we've replaced 2 already, but there are, quite frankly, we have a few that are nearly falling apart. We do need to replace, so.
So is this a replacement, is what I'm asking, or is it an addition? The Chromebook replacement?
There's, the Chromebooks?
Yeah.
So to break
And
it
the carts.
down, the carts, 3 of the 8 will be replacements.
Okay,
We're adding 2 that will be signed out.
okay.
And then there's 3 additional carts that we want to utilize for the social studies department, because we're really working closely with our coach, our instructional coach, to kind of bridge that gap and kind of look at interdisciplinary connections between English language arts and social studies. And we want to utilize a lot of the online resources in social studies, therefore the carts.
Okay.
And it
Thank you.
does offset the cost of textbooks, specifically
Right.
grades 6 and
Right.
7, where we're making a move, and at the high school towards using primary source documents that they could pull online. So you haven't seen a request from 6 or 7, and I've been holding off at the high school too until we actually have curriculum written and can assess whether or not we need a textbook or we can use Chromebooks in their place.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if we could,
Dave.
yep, hang on there, but can we go to page 20 first? And then, so we won't be jumping around, and go from there, so.
I had a question with Chromebooks.
Oh, okay, follow up, very well.
Yeah, follow-up. So those were priced out at the $250, is that correct?
Yes.
And, I'm sorry, you had said earlier you thought you had around 700 currently?
700 would be an estimate at this time.
Sorry, thank you.
And that, and Angie, one other thing, that would be Chromebooks in the building that are currently operating at that time. You know, there might be a day where, you know, the keys are falling off, and then, you know, the tech department helps us. They go to the graveyard to get some keys and replace them, and we're able to really do our best to recycle and use, and I think the technology department does a very good job of that. So we're really able to get the most out of our resources. But they have a certain lifespan, and as time goes on, we do have some older Chromebooks in the building, so this is an effort to utilize some for replacement and then utilize others for departments.
Thank you.
Question on page 20?
Yep.
Just bring me up to speed here. How many teams are there at
Okay, we have 9 teams, 3 per grade level.
Okay. And how many teachers
There's-
altogether?
There's 5 teachers on each team.
Okay.
It's the 4 core areas of English, math, social studies, and science, and a special education teacher linked to that team.
You're going to make me multiply 9 times 5?
Yes.
Okay. And per grade, do you have a breakout per grade of the teachers?
Okay, per grade level would be,
It's in it,
in
in
the
the appendix in the
Chart in the
back.
back.
Right, that breaks it out.
Right, let me see it back there, so I'll look again. Back here? Yeah, it does it fix it.
It breaks it up by subject, not necessarily by grade.
Okay. Just looking. All right, I'll go further back, thank you.
Any others on the 20? JT?
Just want to check my notes here. The per student allotment, Dr. Lumber, 335, is that right, for Scottico?
335, yes.
So just help me clarify, within this request then, things that you have in that budget, let's say Chromebooks, or you have furniture fixtures, some of the other lines you highlighted here in your presentation, those are items that are earmarked within your lines using that student allotment.
Correct. The only thing that you'll see in the Scotticoke pages is the telephone, which doesn't contribute to the per pupil, but is there.
Right, we spoke about that last night. And I think it's important for us as a board to remember that too, that, you know, at some point, we want to make sure that we empower our own administrators to make these decisions for their buildings. And however much we have line item control here, we're also, there's a budget within a budget, right? So I think it's important for us to recognize that. And I always come back to that allotment. All 4 years I've said, you know, we're telling principals, administrators, here's what you have to work with. And within those confines now, make that work with your budget. So I just, you know, I think that's important for us to remember and the public to remember too. One question about books. Can I follow up on the, how much would a history, let's say a social studies book in 6th grade or 7th grade cost?
The last one that we purchased was the 8th grade, and Anthony could fact check me on this, but I want to say it was in the mid 2020 range, so about 24,000 with the site licenses.
I would say a per book.
For a full set.
Oh, you're saying for a site
For a full
license?
set, right.
So a site license for the Chromebook to use that?
Yeah, it's about $100 a test, yeah, that's about right.
Okay. You're saying for a print copy or for a digital
For
copy?
a print copy.
Okay.
We haven't explored the digital copies because we're not at a point where we're even close to being one-to-one yet. And in
Right.
order to do that, we also have to have assurances that kids have access outside of school.
Okay.
And for those who don't, we would still have to have print copies. So we haven't crossed that point
Okay.
yet.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
Thank you, David.
Can I just follow up on that?
Sure.
I apologize, I want to make sure that I heard you correctly. The Chromebooks are part of that dollar amount allotment? Okay.
Yes, there.
Great, thank you.
And 20. And 22. And 23. And, oh, I'm sorry, thank you.
So
Angie?
the tech ed line, you talked about the supplies and increasing the
Right.
project lead the way. I mean, have we completely gone away from industrial arts? We do absolutely nothing industrial art related now. Scotticoke, is that correct?
The component in Project Lead the Way is the hands-on piece of the inquiry model. So there are pieces in the Project Lead the Way where the students, but in terms of the actual curriculum, Project Lead the Way, we utilized a lot of the design and modeling.
But we don't
Of
utilize
units?
any of the shop tools, the power tools. We don't teach the kids any of those types of things.
Not directly, but some of the tools that we do have in that room are used for some of the investigations. But it's not taught explicitly, to answer your question.
Joe?
On that point, and it somewhat ties into the high school, and us eliminating the tech ed position that's been vacant, goes to this theory and questions I had in last budget, is that it's tragic we're losing sight of the tech ed end of our learning. The cost-benefit analysis for going to college and beyond that has become a challenge in the United States. Interestingly, I'm just learning the cost of college in detail this year.
You taking a seminar, Joe, or how
Catch
you
you
doing
after
it?
the meeting.
I'm happy to bring you up to speed on what that is, yeah.
Yeah. But what we're knowing is that nationwide, going on for 4-year and 5-year and professional degrees is, many of us people in this room hold them and we understand and appreciate them, but we lose sight of the tech end of our what's needed here in this country. And what I see is our schools getting away from this, and yet the cost-benefit analysis of going to tech schools is incredible, because I recently, in the last year, I saw a 60-minute special on what they're paying to get students into plumbing, electric, mechanics. Mechanic for BMW, Audi, or a Mercedes. Do you know what they could get paid today? $100,000 a year with benefits, and they steal them from each other. Plumbers, there's such a shortage. These plumbing companies are paying for people to go to school, and they're coming out of school taking $75,000, $80,000 a year as a plumber. And yet, as much as our curriculum is so important here, we're losing sight of it, and sadly, this is part of it. I'm off my soapbox for the moment. But it's something we should keep in mind.
Yeah, well, I agree with you, Joe, on a lot of major points, and I think one thing that we could perhaps pursue is to see if we can get more seats at Henry Abbott, which is...
Luck with that.
Pardon me? Yeah, well, I understand, and I think that's where a lot of the frustrations are. Even if we have students and we would like to send them to our designated school, they're denied.
But even at that, I mean, kids have to leave their home district, they have to get up at 6 a.m. to catch the bus, they can't play their sports team. I mean, I don't think that's the answer. I mean, that's a great opportunity for students, but I really think it's a shame that we can't find some space and some money.
In-house.
Yeah, to do some of these
In-house.
things, because it's, you know, we have students going away to college, and it's no different here than in any other district for the most part. But, you know, 30% of them are coming back after the first year and not going back with absolutely no discernible skills, student loan debt. It would be great if we could give them an opportunity in high school, or, you know, junior high is probably
Exposure,
a little,
I hear
right,
you,
it's
yeah.
a little too early, but it would be great. But, you know, to give them some opportunities and some experiences to see, okay, maybe I don't need to go to a 4-year college. Maybe I want to be a plumber. Maybe I want to be an electrician. But we don't have any opportunities for those students to even explore those careers, to get out in the field, you know, a semester or 1 day a week and just work with somebody. We really, and we can talk more about it when we get to the high school, but, I mean, we are not doing our students a justice. I mean, we're you know, it's getting to be a critical situation, in my opinion, and we've got to change that.
Back to Project Lead the Way. With these supplies, are they supplies or equipment? Like, what is it
Give you
you're
a
looking for?
Little flavor of that. They're materials utilized for the program, and again, the practical arts. Okay, So there are kits that the teacher would utilize in order to deliver some of the investigations, so to speak. We do have computers in the room that have a program on there specific to that computer we don't have that program anywhere else because we only have so many of them. So the students are able to work hands-on at the tables and then create or work on whatever model that they would do. And then they would therefore go back individually. They would collaborate as teams there, but then they go back individually and then utilize the software to then do the design and modeling electronically as well.
So it's
And then
supplies?
Yes.
Okay. And then, I know funding in the past, Mr. Shagru, perhaps you could help me too with this project Lead the Way. A lot of our equipment has been covered by a grant in the past.
That's
Many of it, yeah. Many items, yes, absolutely.
Very generous grant, I
Very
might add.
generous grant, yes, indeed.
Okay.
3D printers, CNC machines.
Right.
Small hand tools, a lot of those types of
So
things.
a lot of the
3D
equipment,
printers, yeah.
the equipment end.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, indeed.
All right, thank you. Okay.
One last comment on Project Lead the Way. It'd be great at another time, one of our subcommittees or board, if we get some type of presentation perhaps with these students to see what they're doing. I know we had it in high school, and it's very interesting to see. But we'll appreciate it.
Definitely. And I do encourage anyone to look on our main webpage and look at the Twitter feed, because, I mean, there's at least 2 or 3 tweets a day. I mean, he tags us on everything. So Mr. D. St. Croix does a great job of really promoting the work of the students. So you'll see, like, students, I mean, he has some video there, he has some pictures, he has, they just made some kind of prosthetic. They made prosthetics and then they tested them. So it is really exciting and it's innovative.
And Joe, the high school students have come before the board.
Okay, yeah.
The high school students have come before the board to show.
That's what I said, I'd like to
Yeah.
see that. And I have to get Twitter.
JT?
Just go to the SNS webpage,
Okay.
right in the middle, and
It's right
just
in the
keep
feed.
scrolling.
I'd say in my years working in Milford, I was really fortunate to have a wide variety of students, and some of my most successful students are now in the trades in town, and it's really great to see that. To see them come out of a comprehensive high school, not necessarily students that went to a tech school, but came out of New Milford and are now, working with water well, pump, plumbers. It's just really fantastic to see that, So I don't think our program does a disservice to those students, but I think there's an opportunity for additional exposure. Having a student myself who's in that Project Lead the Way course in 8th grade, it is frustrating on my part, and I share this frustration, to see a fantastic industrial arts room that's not necessarily being utilized as it could be, and maybe perhaps as it should be. And I think, we will continually as a board bemoan that, and we'll say, oh, but what, we should do more, we should do more. And recently, we always bemoan the legislature as well. But back in July, they did pass a resolution to allow some flexibility for shortage areas. And one of those shortage areas for teaching is tech ed. And instead of having to have the technology credits, and I'm probably telling Ellie something she already knows, but without having to have all of the tech credits, but to be able to pass the certification test, teachers could avail themselves of that. So I think as a board, we do the things to try to encourage and maybe even recruit certain staff or members in the community? Because I look at the high school position that doesn't get filled, I look at middle school, we don't have a tech ed teacher. I think that's really the commodity or the resource that we really need to identify. If we don't have a person, because you need to have that certification, and Ellie, we've talked about this before at in other meetings, if we don't have a teacher that has the tech ed certification, they can't touch that equipment, right? So I think it behooves us to continue to pursue that opportunity to be able to say, if we can have a teacher or teachers sit to take that test who might be science teachers, they might be math teachers, because it's a shortage area, it could avail us to having that human capital to be able to offer these courses. So I think, however much we want to bemoan, we're not doing this, but let's take a step forward and try to get that human component in there, because that would then benefit all of our students. I know that's not a question.
Thank you.
You're lucky you're not on Jeopardy.
Okay. On page 24. 25. Tammy?
Yeah, Dr. Longo, can you just verify that, for the furniture line that you had discussed in your presentation, you have a request of 4490, but the budget book is 4409, and I just want to make sure the budget book is correct.
The budget book, 4409.
Okay,
yes.
okay. Just
The-
don't want to
the
throw,
slide
just don't want to
shows
throw any more
off
numbers
by
at
number, is that what it is?
Anthony.
Switch to 90.
Oh, okay.
I mean, the money is just, it's off, just, I just
Yes.
wanted to make sure that the
But the
budget book
line
was
item's
correct.
correct.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
This question is probably for you, Anthony. I see these are in the operating budget, the furniture, and why not capital?
This is, the one we're talking about right now is in a capital line, the
It is-
57500 line.
Okay, so is this part of the capital that was presented in the superintendent's proposed budget?
Capital with a small c, yes, not part of the capital 5-year plan.
It's part of the small C capital,
Gotcha.
meaning it's embedded into this portion of our budget.
Right,
Which is a
okay.
different component, similar to the technology piece, where the Chromebooks are
Right.
embedded into a
Into
certain
it.
piece of the school budget, and the technology Chromebooks are embedded into the
It's taken a while,
technology.
it's,
in the
yes,
back
we got a
it.
lot of cross, yeah.
So, great question, because they're similar
Merging.
items, but we are looking at them together but separately, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
Well, it gets confusing.
It does.
Thank you. Okay. And on page 26? And 27. And at this point, any wrap-up questions? Yeah, any wrap-up questions? Doesn't have to be confined.
Yeah, this kind of cuts across. The special ed operating expenses, those are at the last page for each building. I'm just wondering, do we also then see those manifest in other places, or we're trying to assign these specifically to the buildings? That's right. Okay. Right. So this is staffing that would be in Scottico versus, other buildings, right? Okay.
Okay, on question?
Yes.
On page 27, the salary certified speech, went down 45,000. Is that a new teacher? Is that a cut in time? 51115 speech.
There's a realignment there of FTEs, so there is in the 1920 budget, 0.5 less of an FTE that was realigned away from Scottico.
Okay. So a speech person went someplace else? Mm-hmm.
Part of one, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Time permitting, Anthony and I are going to try to create a cheat sheet on all these realignments so that you can
Yeah.
see them on one page.
Right.
As distinct from actual changes in
Costs,
positions.
yeah.
It's interesting because to that point, the overview will help us go through all of the, personnel changes that are identified, but between the contractual changes and the alignment in those line items, it does get a little bit confusing. So.
And I'd like to go to under the psychologist.
Still on 27, yeah, right up in the middle?
Yeah,
Yep.
that's fine.
Yeah.
I was just concerned, the supplies are $3,000. Now, would that include tests? Testing?
Yes. Yeah. The protocols used for the WISC and Connor scales and
That's what
all
I'm
the
asking.
psychological testing.
Okay. And any other for Scottico?
Thank you, Dr.
And Mr. Shagru?
Chris, thank you for being concise, keeping us on track. Appreciate it.
Handout for everyone going around. Thank you, Jake.
Thank you.
Right. Pass them to.
Oh, thank you.
Doing this?
Coming over.
Oh, right. I think it has
Oh, thank you.
Have it, we all set? All right, well, I too want to echo my colleagues' remarks and thank the board for the opportunity to sit and chat about the budget as we prepare for the 2019-2020 school year. It's still hard for me to even say that. We're talking about the 2020. But again, I'll try to be concise. I'll try to walk you through some of the numbers that I think you're going to have questions about and try to alleviate your questions as we go. But again, if you have questions as we go, we'll go through those. New Milford High School, like Scattacoke, has an acronym, Core Values and Beliefs. We are WAVE. We want our students to work hard. We want them to achieve through hard work. We want them to value civic responsibility, and through the maturation process, there's a level of empowerment that we hope our students gain after 4 years at New Milford High School. This should not be foreign to you. We are grounded in the theories of action that, as the board is, we have student belonging, where we want our students to value others in the community, empower students. Again, these are linked directly to our core values and beliefs. You'll see the tie-in to our WAVE acronym. We want our students to belong and feel a sense of belonging at New Milford High School. Obviously, we want our students to aspire to great things as we prepare them for life after New Milford High School. We want them to work, we want them to achieve their goals, we want them to develop and refine their abilities to communicate using a variety of tools, verbally, orally, and through the written word. We want them to be global citizens and to be technologically savvy. And we want them obviously to strive with their academics. We want them to implement high quality formative and summative assessments. We want them to achieve, want them to continually reflect on it, our teachers to reflect on their teaching and value and engage fully in their professional development as well. And again, empower our students and our teachers as they go through life at New Milford High School. And these are the things that are grounding us as we prepare to build this budget and the last couple of budgets as we've gone since the board has participated in that workshop last summer, I believe it was. We continue to be grounded in this work as well. Quickly, some of the highlights for this year. We have Effective School Solutions. We currently have 15 students that are in their home school and not being out of district placed. This is in this budget is our 4th year proposal for this budget. We obviously, I'm not going to read all of them to you, but we have various curricula that has been being written. The board has subsidized advanced placement tests, so we're making great strides, and we're offering our students the opportunity to practice and prepare for the state assessment in their junior year in the spring, which is the SAT. I also want to talk about some of the highlights of this budget and some of the crunch that the high school has felt this year. As you know, we took a $1.7 million cut last year, and I don't know if that's been talked about yet. But I'm going to tell you here, we are holding this together at the high school with baling wire and bubble gum. Okay, I had conversations with our department chairs, and they're saying, you know, this is bare bones, and if you come back to us again, I don't know what we're going to do. So I want to just share to bring it back to the surface. We did lose a math teacher. We lost a social studies teacher. Every Chromebook that was requested last year was cut. We lost textbooks in science and social studies. Library budget got cut. Supplies got cut. Equipment from our athletics, our PE, and our uniforms are off cycle now with our athletic program. These things, I'm not suggesting we try to catch up on $1.7 million overnight. I get that, but we have to kind of try to make some strides, because if not, we're going to fall further and further behind. I do want to talk about Chromebooks, as you mentioned it. You know, I was sitting here as Dr. Longo was talking, you know, and I just made a list. You know, in the 1800s, students were given a slate and a piece of chalk. Then they went to the quill and the ink.
I remember that.
All right, maybe they're yeah. All right, and then maybe the fountain pen, the pencil, the Bic. Okay. the people on the boots on the ground, our teachers are doing wonderful things. It is comes to, when we build a budget, when I build a budget, and I have faith in our colleagues that when we all build this budget, it comes down to needs versus wants. We don't want Chromebooks. We need them. I'll give you an example. There's been, I don't know how many iterations of the food pyramid. It's no longer a food pyramid. It's a plate. And they talk about portion control and everything else. The textbook that we're using in health still has the food pyramid. Okay? Our U.S. history book left off, I don't think we started the Persian Gulf War. Okay? Now, I'm not suggesting, and we talked about the price of textbooks, they're astronomical these days. But with a $250 piece of equipment that is vital to the instruction and our people that are working with our kids every day, we can pull up the new iteration of the food pyramid or the food plate or whatever you want to call it. We can get primary source documents to talk about what's going on in the midterm elections in 2018. We can be current in the world. So I know it looks like a big ticket item, but in today's world, as we prepare for the 21st century, these are vital to the students in our school systems. I can't stress that enough. So I know you're forced to make hard choices next Thursday, and I appreciate the position you're in, but please, I'm begging you, don't touch the Chromebooks. That's my soapbox for that. So the priorities, again, continue to maintain and improve instruction, all right, between text, supplies, technology, continue to address our social and emotional needs through ESS, our work with the ADL through our names, our Names Can Hurt program, Truth About Hate, things of that nature, and also to continue to fund college and career readiness through our AP and our PSAT.
Can I just?
Certainly.
Real quick? So
Yeah.
College readiness and career opportunities, you have PSAT and AP, but what about the students that aren't going to college? I think that goes back to what I was talking about.
Yeah.
What about internships? What about job shadowing? And I know we have a very
Yeah.
minuscule
Yeah.
job internship.
It's not, I go to the, what do they call it, the, I'm having a brain dump here.
Chamber of Commerce.
Chamber of Commerce, thank you. And I've been going for a year plus now, trying to drum up opportunities with our small businesses, not just for the accountant that needs an intern during tax season, but I'm trying to get the local person that's doing brake jobs, the local plumber. So I continue to go to those when I can. I think it's, when we talk about our partnership, we talk about our vision, I believe in that collaborative partnership. It's more than just the home and the schools. It's also, hopefully, we're trying to get small businesses to get involved in that as well. But that's something that we continue to work on. You're right, we do have a small percentage of internships. We try to grow that. But again, trying to get businesses involved and on board with that is difficult.
I've been a high school parent for many years, not the same high school student. He told me to say that last time I mentioned that. Because I think I said I've had a kid at the high school like 11 years, and he's like, make sure you said it's not the same student, different students.
Right.
But I have to say to you, as a parent, and I know you're busy, Greg, I'm not trying to throw you under the bus, but I've never gotten an email stating, we're looking for people for internships. Do you know somebody? I think maybe we need to do some community, some things we can do low cost that can boost up that program. If you need volunteers from the community, I'll be in there any day you need me. And I know other people will too, because this is a passion area for many people.
Yep.
And I think it's something our students critically need. And JT, I think we're going to agree to disagree, because I think we are doing our students a disservice. We push college, we push college, we push college. Kids go to college, they don't succeed, they come back, they feel like failures. I've seen it repeatedly happen. Project Lead the Way is a great program. I had 2 kids go through it. It's great, but it's not for every student. And I think we need to do things, and I know the budget is tight. We can't bring in a whole army of people, but I think there are low-cost things we can do to bolster some of these programs.
Well, I appreciate the suggestion. I'll put that up. Absolutely. We'll get some feelers out. Yep. So some of the challenges ahead that you're going to hear from Alicia in a little bit is the 2017 legislation that's been impacting specifically the class of 2023. There's going to be a redistribution of credits, not necessarily mandating, because we're above the 25 mandated. We're at 26 currently. But it's going to present some challenges that this board is going to have to address, and I look forward to the challenge and working with you along with Alicia on making and meeting the mandate of that legislation. Specifically, they're talking about changing it from a half a credit of health required to full credit of health. implementing a full credit of world language for graduation, changing the way we do business as far as our requirements on English, social studies, science, and math, and putting in clusters with 9 credits towards the humanities, 9 credits in STEM. So in giving students more personal choice in how they get to those 25 or 26 credits. That's a major undertaking. They also have to have a credit in mastery-based learning. So we've been getting a brief about once a week from CAPS, the Connecticut Association of Public School Superintendents. They're writing briefs to kind of bring us up to speed on what that's all about. But there's some yeoman work ahead of us in that we're going to have to be prepared to make changes now, because the class of 2023 is our incoming freshman class. So we're going to have to start putting this on the docket for our Committee on Learning and coming before the full board to have some deep conversations about what a graduate looks like at New Milford High School. Alicia and I have been going to workshops on the portrait of a graduate that are really starting to define that, and some exemplar schools are speaking on that. I'm also working with other principals in the area to see how they too are grappling with this new legislation. I think, when we talk about mastery-based, again, Alicia's going to speak further on this, but this is where this Director of Curriculum Instruction comes in. If we're talking about mastery-based, where are those assessments coming from? Where are they grounded to? What standards are they linked to? So there's a lot more questions right now than we have answers, but I just put it out there that there are some challenges on the horizon that we'll have to roll up our sleeves collectively and address. So I wanted to make sure you folks are aware of that.
Great.
Yep.
Question. You reminded me a little bit in Vision of the Graduate. I know NEASC has some new standards coming out for 2020 in schools moving forward. When's the next 10-year visit?
We had our visit in May of 2015.
Okay.
So we're 4 years out. So we've got about 4 or 5 years. And then, as you know, but you got to start doing a self-study.
Okay.
You usually start about 18 months prior to the visit with the self-study and preparing and aligning and doing that critical work as it aligns, kind of looking at the work we do as it aligns to the new standards. Okay. So that too is coming. It's not immediate, but this is the one that's on the immediate horizon right now.
Sure.
That's going to take some really looking at some of our policies. So with respect to credit requirements, how we are chunking those requirements, really moving towards kind of a cluster system, because the legislation is very clear. It talks really about the student having the opportunity to individualize, and they give them some freedom of how they get their 9 credits of humanities, whereas we at New Milford, we talk about you need 4 credits of English, you need 3 credits of social studies. This legislation is really starting to give the students a little bit more creativity and choice on how they get to the 25 and 26 credits.
This may not be directed to you, just a general question. Do we, as a district, go to our legislators? Do we write letters? Do we tell them how these unfunded mandates are affecting us?
Yes, so I'll speak to that I can speak to that during my presentation, because
Okay.
we recently, in the area, we're given the opportunity to give feedback that would directly go to Ned Lamont's cabinet as they begin to make decisions on their pathway forward in education, as well as we also get to see what's proposed in the legislative session. That window closed 2 weeks ago, and I was able to view all the bills that are being proposed and think about their intended effects on our district. Generally, it is the work of the superintendent to really lobby for their district and explain the impact to people who are advocating for us in those roles in the House to help make some informed decisions about what the impact will be locally, as well as regionally. So I'll share a little bit about what we learned from that, and you'll see that in my presentation too.
And
Your School Boards Association is also very active in this area.
Right. Well, I was just going to add one thing. I just hope as a district, we're taking the opportunity to invite our legislators into this school. I mean, I know they're busy, but I do think that they'll make an appearance if they have the opportunity.
Well, we did. House Representative passed this in the school and passed.
Okay. Well, we also have a senator, so.
And just so you know, that 2017 is not a typo. As Alicia mentioned, we
Right.
looked at the new
Right.
2019 legislation.
Right.
It's not on there. 2018, they tabled it, so it's back out. So just want to let you know that that's so.
And I haven't seen this one come back up. It did not come up on the list of proposals from what I saw when I previewed. So we're not sure, but the fact that CAPS is working with, I believe it's, I don't want to misquote, it might be Great Schools Partnership. You'll see when I pull up my presentation who they're working with. They're releasing briefs to us that are going to every district across Connecticut, which makes me think that it's coming and that we need to really prepare and have a plan on how we want to move forward. And Mr. Shagru and I would like the time to come up with a proposal that over the course of time will build on itself year over year with the least amount of impact but more offering to kids. And we'd like to do that through COL because it really does require, and policy actually, in tandem with one another, because it's going to require some tough decisions on the board's part and some changes that we need to get out in front of and inform parents of well before they occur. So.
And Angie, as last year when we sent a resolution to various
Right.
leadership of the House and the Senate, we always have that option. And I
Right.
certainly would encourage it if it has these types of
Yeah, I mean, I
impacts
think we
on it.
should become more active in that
I agree.
personally.
Absolutely, yeah. We did that last year, and out of all the ones we sent it to, we got 2 responses, I believe, out of 14.
We can change that and become.
I just comment, it seems to be the consensus within the Superintendent's Association that this graduation requirement issue will not be punted any further down the road. There's a certain amount of embarrassment about how it's been put off and put off and put off. So it seems to be coming with this entering class.
Well, yeah, all this will go to the Committee of Learning.
Right.
Is where we'll send that.
Well,
When-
to that point, I was just going to add to that, that there are many pieces of that when you have changes of this magnitude. There's budgetary implications, there's policy issues, there's scheduling issues, and we have to be ahead of this if we know that it's coming, or at least up with the pace, because we have to bring the community right along with us and get them to understand what we're doing, why we're doing, and how this came about. Because one of the reasons we're sitting here, the budget is the challenge. It's a huge component of this, and if we need some of these things and we have to pay for them, we need to be prepared for it. So I'll look forward to that, whether it's at Committee on Learning, whether it's at Policy, and whether it's at Operations. I'm sure it'll be coming down the way.
Okay. All right, I'm going to turn your attention to page 30 in your book. We're going to go through some of those changes, percent changes in art specifically. You'll see a $500 incremental change. That line basically represents additional costs and supplies needed to cover the existing art classes and the art class of the new digital photography. I will tell you, I think one of the things that I'm very proud of, we talked about, and I share some of your sentiment, Angie, relative to preparing students for the workforce. I think we talk about the goal at New Milford High School is to prepare students for the workforce, for the military, and/or the college classroom, just be prepared for life after New Milford. I'm proud that we have, a comprehensive community-based high school. I think we're one of the few schools around that we still offer a wood shop, we still offer drafting, we still do old school T-square triangles, we still doing all that. And it also comes down to, again, needs versus wants. It comes down to course selection. So you'll see, and we'll talk about when I get to the ELL slide, why we have to have a bilingual teacher and why we're trying to swap the tech ed position for the bilingual. A couple of things. First and foremost, we just did not get the sign-ups last year. In the summer, we had a former tech ed teacher that was waffling whether we were going to come back or not. Kind of put us in a very precarious position whether we were going to schedule classes or not. When I took that information based on the course selections and requirements and requests, they weren't there. I did not have a request to warrant an additional a third tech ed teacher. We have 2 now. This would have been the 3rd. So those requests weren't there. So in addition to that, we also couldn't find a tech ed teacher because that is a dying breed relative to certification. So I bring that up during the art slide is because for this class, and you folks that know that you passed this new course, digital photography, we had 211 students sign up for this course. That means 146 students did not get this course this year. So Ellie and I worked at the State Department. We tried to say, hey, listen, can we have a tech ed person teach the art class? teach this class. It's digital photography. We're not asking the tech ed teacher to teach drawing and painting, get out and get on the wheel and teach ceramics, but could they teach digital photography, which many schools have, some of those types of courses very similar. The state responded to Ellie that we could not do that. So we're trying to be creative and trying to how we, maybe instead of going traditional tech ed, we kind of get more students to digital photography. That didn't happen. So I think it's important that you folks understand the full picture of that position and how it is still vacant, why it's still vacant, and why, as we approach 1920, how we're ready to kind of make a swap for the mandate for the bilingual teachers. So I think it's important that you folks knew that. Moving along, English, you'll see, I talked earlier about the Chromebooks. You cut them from social studies, English, science, world language. They're all back this year. So you can see that you can see
where they were,
they're all there. They're all there. Yep, you can see English, and again, percentage change, supplies. I want to just talk about that supply. It looks like 115. I'm on page 30.
Yep.
It looks like there's a 115% increase. Basically, what we did is we merged. Anthony suggested that we merge our object codes 56100 and 56110 with that. So actually, if you take a look and you calculate it, we're actually about on par where we were. This year was 1,500. Last year was 1,595. So it looks like a 115% increase. When you take a look at, if you combine 56100, 56110 from last year, you'll see that we're right on par. It's the same amount. But you'll see that this is where the licenses are. This is where the Chromebooks are in English.
That's what I was looking.
And world language on page 30 as well. You'll see that there is a tech services. There's a $4,500 change, or 71%. That's basically for the software for the language lab. That's for the seal of biliteracy test that we have to offer again through state mandate, whether we pay for it or not. That's at the board discretion, I think. But we now, students that have taken more than 2 years of a language are afforded the opportunity to take a test to see if they get qualified for a biliteracy seal on their transcript. The test is $20. Okay, so I'm budgeting for 200 tests, and so that contributes to the change of $4,500 in that line item. You'll see supplies is going up. That too is for test materials and resource materials. $602, practice workbooks, and again the Chromebooks of $8,400. So the Chromebook is $250 a piece at 30 Chromebooks, plus the cart comes to $8,400. That's on page 30.
I have a question
Certainly.
just on page 30 because
Yes.
we're dealing with, if you look down to the computers, tech, hardware under total world language, it's $8,400 as well. What is that?
That is right there.
That's the same thing.
That's the same
Okay.
thing. So that's the 30 Chromebooks at
Yeah.
$250, which is $7,500.
Right.
And then a cart for $900 equates to the $8,400. So you'll see that. You saw it just in the English line. You're going to see it. You
All the
see it
way-
in the world
that-
language. You're
that's
going to
what I
see it
wanna-
again in social studies, and you're going to see it again in science.
It's the same dollar amount. It's
Yeah.
in those line items.
That's right.
I just want to be clear on
That's exactly it. It's $30 for the license.
It's not being replicated.
No, it's the
same
same one.
So that's, I just want
So
to put
there's,
that out
so
there.
if you
when
do the
people
math,
see
we're
the
looking for
reoccurring
160
expenses.
Chromebooks with carts.
Thank you.
Okay?
We call them cows, right?
Cows. I heard cows last night. I like that.
Yeah.
Computers on wheels, I think. That's
Stay
another,
away from
that's
the
another
acronyms.
acronym. Add that to your list. Add the acronym. All right. Again, health, you can see tech services in the 53,300 of $900. Wendy, that's exactly what we're talking about. You see the 900, that's your licenses. Again, on 57,340, the $8,400, that's your cart and your Chromebooks. And then they need testing materials, gloves, probe covers, things of that nature for supplies. Just to give you like a little insight, last year, myself and Mr. Lipinski were sequestered by Anthony and Josh in June, locked in there with shackles with no air conditioning.
Is this a grievance? What is this?
And we were told to cut $150,000. So when you're saying, well, why all of a sudden is testing materials or gloves and things of that nature bubbling to the surface now? We scraped hard last year at supplies, and now this year the cupboards are bare. So we're trying to get some of those back. Okay, I joke with the air conditioning, but we were sequestered until we came out with a number. Moving along with math, field trips is increased by $600. That's for our math team. We're still competing in math competitions, just the schools are different, so it's costing us a little additional money to travel to different schools to do that. And you'll see, again, testing materials, batteries, supplies, protractors, rulers, things of that nature that amount to a percentage change. Science, you'll see in science, there's training for teachers, there's Chromebooks, there's field trips for our physics group, there's field trips for our earth science or AP group, there's basic lab supplies that are needed. Again, there's textbooks. This completes, if you folks recall, we did a partial buy last year on an earth science book. This will complete the earth science, so every student in the 9th grade will have a textbook for earth science. We're budgeting for 100 textbooks at $100 a piece. That'll complete the purchase that we did last year. 30 Chromebooks, and then again, glassware, multimeters, things of that nature. That's on page 31 in your budget book. Physical education, I know it's come to the board. One of the things that's been wonderful, we're working with a partnership in town. We have a wonderful biking unit now. We have about 25, 30 bikes, which is fantastic. It gives the students more choice with respect to their physical education requirements, but it becomes a problem. We don't have anywhere to store the bikes. So you'll see that we're looking to lease a trailer. We have 2 trailers on site in the back next to the softball field. We're trying to get a 3rd one. The 2 trailers already are already full with track and field gear, other things throughout the year through our athletic department. So we really need another opportunity, another place to store these bicycles and that are secured.
How long do they get for a physical education class?
How long?
How many minutes?
80 minutes.
So they still have to go all the way out to the back of the trailers?
No, we're just storing them when they're not like during the winter months. We'll store them in the winter months, things of that nature. But yeah, once the fall and the spring, we'll bring them forward. Yes. Okay. Right now, I mean, they're in our dance studio, which is really a teaching space, and it's kind of hard to do other PE units when you're trying to work around helmets and bicycles and things of that nature. All right. Yeah. Social studies, again, you'll see the same line items. Texts, you'll see that that's for a new AP macro and replacement text as needed. Periodicals, again, computers with the Chromebooks and the licenses. That's on page 31. A $3,000 change in business, that's on page 32 of your budget book. Basically, you'll see on there that we're trying to go away from our workbooks. We're reducing that. In consumables, you'll see that with last year we had $2,500 in that. We're trying to move to more of an online platform for practicing accounting and AP business and those types of things, coding, more from an online practice medium as opposed to a workbook. So you can see what we basically swapped at $3,000. We were once paying $2,500. It's now $3,000. Tech ed, the additional monies that's got cut last year. Oh, pardon me.
Sorry.
Yes,
Going
sorry.
back to the online practice.
Yep.
Is that for 1 year or is it ongoing?
Yes, a year. Okay. Yeah, and same with those workbooks for a year too. They were consumables.
But, yeah, but the online's updated as
Yeah.
stated earlier.
Right, exactly. Tech ed, last year again, we had to cut for this year for drafting supplies and lumber. So this is to try to get us back to the $12,000 number. Music, we have repairs that are needed for our school-owned equipment that needs to be repaired, and we need other items for the music department, microphones, some other tech equipment at $2,500 when things break there. Moving to page 33, this is where our bilingual teacher is, and this is based on state mandate of 20 students. I know Alicia's going to talk a little bit more about this in her presentation. With that comes an increase in some of the texts that are needed, test prep materials, other books to support the ELL population, and additional workbooks that are needed as well. Library books, basically our our purchase services, some of the licenses that we subscribe to, Turnitin, Destiny, the movies license fees, all these allow our library media center to function in a 21st century. There's obviously other costs for DVDs and periodicals there, and you can see this percent of change with those as well. It's insignificant, you're talking $200, $100, but I did want to mention it because I know that if when you're looking down the right-hand column, you see 35% increase or 12% increase. I thought it was necessary to at least address it. And we're writing a new library media curriculum. In the BLE 24-143 account, printing for graduation programs, tickets and diplomas, envelopes, those things are going up. Travel to the various conferences that I talked about earlier, whether it's Portrait of a Graduate, whether it's working with our colleagues around the state as we prepare, excuse me, for that Portrait of a Graduate and what that work needs for 2023 class. Other administration, this is where we moved. In years past, you would see perhaps in equipment, you might see that under art. But this year, Anthony suggested that we move it all in here under office other administration, and that's on page 34. And you'll see that that $2,200, and that is broken down for, we're looking for stools for our art room, some bookcases, some rolling carts for books, and some office furniture that it needs to be repaired and or broken. Athletics, certainly.
No.
Got a question?
No, that's okay. Thanks.
Okay, yeah. You'll see an increase in our 53201 medical account. That's our trainer contract. We have to have a trainer on site. We are contracted through Select Medical. You'll see that that went up $2,500. Buses to various contests for sporting events, playoffs, things of that nature. We're requesting a $2,000 increase. As I talked to earlier, we talked about equipment being cut, uniforms being cut, getting off cycle. Mr. Lipinski does a tremendous job of getting our athletic programs on a 5-year program, on a 5-year cycle. So he, in addition, so we lost that cycle. We're off cycle this year. So there isn't, in the 2019 or 2018-19 school year, there are no athletic teams that got new uniforms, even though they were on cycle for the 5-year change. This tries to help that. And also, there are 2 cameras that we're trying to get the league and the state is getting behind through the National High School Federation. One camera would be mounted. They're fully automated. One would be put on our stadium field and one would be put in our gym. This would act twofold. First, it would act as another means of security for our turf fields and our gymnasium. But it also, what it does is it streams any contests without any additional manpower. So if you got grandma, grandpa, mom or dad are on a business trip out of town and can't see their child play in an athletic event that's being held on the stadium field and or gymnasium, they get to watch that. Obviously doesn't have color commentating, but they do get to see. They do get to see the contest, and this is something that's really taken hold throughout our league, the Southwest Conference, throughout the state, and nationally, and that is a streaming service that is being offered. Yes.
Now, with the National High School Federation,
yeah, are
they supporting this as far as financial or the streaming aspect?
They take care of the streaming. Okay. We have to take care of the 2 hardwares.
Okay.
And so that's kind of how that works. But you would log on to their website. Mm-hmm. We would be one of the schools of choice. Boom, you can do that. And there's different ways you can see it. If you want to watch it live, there's a subscription. It's nominal. But if you want to watch it on a DVR type of setup, you can always watch it on a tape delay type of thing without a fee.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
The cameras.
Yeah.
I may have missed it. What were the dollar amounts of those 2 cameras?
Coach Lipinski has those. I can get those for you. I don't know if you have one.
They're about $5,000 a piece plus $1,500 for installation.
Because we had cameras installed or upgraded out in the field.
Security cameras.
Correct.
This
is
yeah.
Right.
These are
This is different, I
Primarily for
understand.
videotaping games to
Yep,
be seen,
okay.
but they can be left on at all times.
If you could get me that cost, that'd be great. And some, if you could get me the cost and the information on those cameras, that'd be appreciated, thank you.
JT?
I'm just curious too, policy-wise, with privacy concerns, if there's students who are, you know, don't publish, don't photograph, I don't know how that, you know, have other districts, if SWC is doing this, how they wrestle with that and reconcile that. I know we have security cameras, but that's internal, and that's not necessarily made public.
Sure.
And I know in the hockey community, they've got a group called Live Barn, and by entering that facility, you agree to that, but you have students who might be there for PE, you know, on the field, and they might not want to be photographed, or, you know, and.
No one has access to that unless, only it's a game time. That's the only thing that has access. So with PE classes, things of that nature, wouldn't be anything like that.
Truly?
Yes.
Okay. How do we, so that, like, is that working with the National Federation to say, okay, from these hours to these hours, like, those cameras are not then available? I'm just, again, I'm just playing the policy.
We gotta think
play
about
out,
that.
you know?
You can set the schedule for when you want.
Okay.
Well, that's controlled locally.
We control that, yes.
But even if we have athletes on the field, that's,
Right.
you know, that we still have that
Well, those are
provision.
questions to tease out, absolutely.
Right, yeah. Okay.
Aren't most high school football games televised?
Well, they're taped.
When they're
Some of them are,
televised?
some of them are televised, some of them are, but all of them are taped.
We may want to look at it, or even ask legal, if you're playing a sport for this school and you're competing, I think you're waiving that right to privacy.
That's
Well,
something,
we've
but
dug
that's,
into that policy though, so, I mean, you know, the policy doesn't necessarily have
Yeah,
any waiver of that.
See, we're going
Again,
around and
say,
around.
but I,
Good,
yeah,
good.
we're going far afield
Yeah, we
on
have
something
some-
that might be a
I
benefit.
think we have
Yeah.
several questions on this, one of
Right.
privacy and one of cost.
right.
Well, it's just the first we've heard of it, that's,
Yeah, so if we could
Yeah.
have the question of cost, certainly we could have that by
Yeah.
next Tuesday, so if we could put that down as one
Yeah.
of the questions, please.
Student activities, we're trying to work, and we have a club that we're trying to get off the ground. We're trying to get some small robots, so our robotic club can get going, so you'll see an increase there. Okay. Guidance, there's an increase, that is the supplemental, of the cost of your AP tests at 400 tests at $47.50. You can see where that's broken down. Naviance is in there, the PSATs for your 9, 10, and 11, and AP testing. Again, that's on page 36 of your book, and you can see where that comes from. Special education, our special ed numbers are up at the high school, therefore supplies are needed at the high school. Okay? And that's what I have for you, and I'll be happy to entertain any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you. And let's go back to the beginning, folks. On page 28. Yeah. And 29. Wendy?
I just have some basic questions on the overview. If we go to the certified salary, we have 120.41 certified salary, and we're looking at a $516,000 budgetary change. Are any of that realignment, or is that just straight up?
A lot of that is realignment. Just give me one more, please.
And that will also hook on to the non-cert of 31.49 positions that we have with a 10.22 increase. Same question.
Yep. So in the certified staff, realignment from other locations to the high school is there's 1.5 additional FTEs as part of that number.
Okay.
In the non-certified, there are, I believe, additional paras. I believe it, I will double check the number, but there are
Okay.
additional paras that are now deployed at high school that drive up those percentages. because
Again,
we
this is
moved-
just so when people open the budget book and they see 10.22%, some of that clarification.
And that's part of the driver
Yep.
when you go back to page 28,
Yep.
why the high school is up 7.02%.
And that would be very helpful. David, I just have two more questions on this. just for clarifications on the Chromebooks, don't
Yep.
panic, this
I'm
is
not
just for
panicking.
clarification.
No.
The total Chromebooks in this
Yep.
that we're looking at is $40,000 based on 160 times 240?
Yes.
Is that to be clear?
Yes,
250?
and if
Okay.
you, when you parse out the 5700 series
Yep,
in your budget,
yep,
that's where your Chromebooks are, 57,340.
right.
It's about $44,500,
Okay.
yes.
And that total, when you look at the overview on page 29, that is embedded in the supply line?
Yes.
254, 453? Correct?
Yes.
Great. And then the last question on that would be the athletic. The 56100 and your general supplies of 38,409. That would also be part of the supply line?
That is correct.
Great. Those are my questions.
JT?
Again, just for clarification, 645 is the $645 per student is the high school per student allotment.
Yes.
And am I correct in assuming then you take that, you projected, what, 1,300?
That's exactly it.
54 students, and then that 645, we could then track back to any one of these supplies, or let's say Chromebooks. So
Yep.
that's being deployed out through the
Yes.
budget. So
So
we've
we-
got a budget within the budget.
Yep, so Anthony gives me a number of
Right.
1,354 students projected at 645.
Right.
That's $873,330.
Okay, and that's-
So if you add, if you subtract the salaries away from all that, the operating budget will come to $873,000. That's what the target was, based on a per pupil. And then in that, there are texts, there are Chromebooks, there are stools for the art room, there are pencils, markers, things of that nature, test materials, protractors, battery, all that is encompassed in, Bunsen burners, all that is encompassed in this operating budget.
You're in my wheelhouse now. But I think one of the things we heard last night was one of the reasons that allotment is much higher, it's in the order of $645 as opposed to the $300 number for the other schools, is as athletics is also built into that too.
Yes. And you're talking about, of the $870,000, if you just took anything from the athletics, in the BLE 32040, there's $399,691 of the $870,000 for athletics.
Right. But it's not necessarily an apportionment of the 645, because, okay, take that 645 and do an apportionment for
No.
athletics of this.
No.
It's how to display that throughout all the
Exactly.
different line items.
Which we know
Meeting
through
those needs.
history, what we need for buses, what we need for uniforms, we need equipment, things of that nature. We know that what Mr. Lipinski needs to run that program of,
Right.
a very comprehensive double L school.
No, thank you.
Yep.
Just a clarification on capital other on page 29, up 191% with what?
Capital other, that's your 5700 series, that's your Chromebooks, that's where that is.
Okay.
Yep.
Wait, so the Chromebooks are in the capital other?
It's 5700 series, yes.
Okay, I had it under supplies.
No, it's not, it's your 5700 series.
No, but you're talking about the series. Are you talking about the overview page?
I'm talking about page 29.
Page 29.
Right.
The question was about what is capital other? And if you
Okay.
take a look at this page that we use, and I'm sure
Yes.
on here, capital other is your 5700 series.
Okay.
So if you take a look at the English, for example, back on page 30,
Right, so we add them all up, okay.
all right,
But
you'll
when
see,
When I had asked the question of the $40,000 in Chromebooks, I'd asked if they were in the supply.
oh, I'm sorry.
That's
I
okay.
apologize.
That's what I
I
just wanted to
apologize.
clarify.
I
because-
do apologize.
Is that correct?
They're not in the supply line.
No.
They're in
Oh,
the-
okay.
That's what I want to be
Capital.
clear
I
on.
apologize if I
So when
said
we
that.
discussed
I
the
misheard you.
locations last night about
They're
the
the small
realignment
capital, yeah.
Yes,
between
that's right.
small
I'm
That's
sorry
why I
about
was
that.
asking.
Okay,
and
thanks for
supplies.
clarifying.
We discussed that we were able to realign those at the other locations.
Okay,
Correct.
yeah,
We
no,
didn't
we
attempt
just
that
had
at
it
the
under
high school.
supplies
They're-
and.
I get it. They're in capital other, they should be in capital
That's where
other,
they are.
but they are
Yes.
basically supplies, but when I
Right.
asked if they got it, no
Middle high
worries.
school, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So let's go back to the supplies then.
Yes.
So what do we, and this is on page 29 again?
Right, that's your 5,600 series,
Okay.
okay? So that is,
Right.
anything in supplies. For example, you're talking about, we have the AP test prep for Barron's. We have
Okay.
workbooks there. We have toner for the printers, all that stuff.
Hey, I remembered as line 611, so.
Right, okay, yeah, it's
Pretty big
it's
transition for me here.
Yes, it's the 5,600 series now.
Because
strip out the
the
first number.
I need
computers
a
are
bilingual teacher.
5,700 in capital.
That's right.
And
It's
if I
a
could-
different series.
That's right.
If I could add that half of that increase there in supplies is associated with the athletics line that Mr. Shagru just went through.
Right, so
38,000
that's in
of
there
that.
too.
Yes,
Right, 38,000 of the $74,000 increase in the supply line. The overview on page 29 is associated with athletics.
Now, is that, got that camera thing in there?
Yeah.
The
It does.
supplies? So we do have a number for it.
For athletics, yes, we have an all-in number of
No.
38,000, of which I
yeah,
believe
he said at 5,000 apiece and $1,500 to install.
13,000 is the,
Okay, I'm getting confused here.
No.
so in the total number for athletics supply increase of 38,000, I believe 13,000 of that is for 2 of those cameras. And the additional 25,000 are for straight athletic supplies.
6,500 times 2.
It's 50.
Right.
5,000 plus 50.
Okay. And the uniforms are in with the supplies as well, then, I'm making the assumption?
Mhm.
Right.
Okay.
That makes
Did you have something, Joe?
Did you?
Joe?
What?
No, Joe?
I got a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
Okay, I just want one figure back again. The budget was 873,000, and you took out teachers' pay? Is that what you took out and came up with another number? I didn't get that number.
The number that I work with
Yeah, it's 800.
is $645 per student
Yeah,
times 1,354
Right.
students
And that came
is
up.
$873,330. That's the number that I work with.
Okay.
And then I can construct that, as we talked about, supplies, books, all that. I give it to Anthony, then he weaves in his salary, certified, non-certified,
Okay.
and that's when we come up with
All right, did you have a
probably
salary?
$11 million.
Did you have
for the
a
high school.
salary number added
Well,
in?
you could take that, if you look on page 29, in the 1920 column, the bottom number,
There's the salary.
if you take the 11,594,415, what Mr. Shagru is saying, out of that $11.5 million, what he has as controllable funds
Okay.
is the
873.
873.
That's
And then
right.
you parcel that out, and that's your actual number for the
That's
rest
right.
of the operational expenses.
right.
Correct, that he doesn't
Okay.
necessarily have control over to allocate to lines.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Joe?
Tying somewhat into that, I'm gonna look at this from a little different perspective. If we take out certified, non-certified salaries, just eliminate those for the moment.
Sure.
In your budget of $11,500,000, you're asking for $120,000 additional to accomplish what you need. Am I off by much?
Pretty much right there, 117,
So it's just,
739.
right? So I'm about right. You're asking
Yeah.
for an additional $120,000?
Yes.
Out of 11.5?
Yes.
Okay. Now I'm gonna move to another page, revenues.
Yep.
Specific, I believe, to.
What
to-
page on there, Joe?
71, for the high school.
Yes.
$25,000 in gate receipts.
That's right.
What's it costing us to collect that 25,000? We're paying people
Right.
salaries. Do we know what that
Well-
is? Well, or stipends, or whatever.
Yes,
Do we know how much it's costing us to collect that 25,000?
I do not.
Parking fees, is that $64,000 what we collect from our high school students to park there?
In parking permits, are you
Yes.
referring to that line item?
Yes.
Yes. That's the parking fee that was agreed by the board at last adoption, almost a year ago.
And last but not least, I suspect you're gonna know where I'm going. Pay to participate. We're eliminating that $110,000 in this budget,
Mhm.
which is a very good thing.
Which is what?
A very good thing. You haven't been with us the last couple of years?
Oh, here we go.
Yeah. I think it's.
So I just want to make sure I heard which side you were on.
I think it's abhorrent that we would charge students to play sports. And I've been against the pay to participate since I've been involved over the last 15 years. And it is just downright tragic, so I'm glad we worked around those fees this year.
Well, for the time being.
For the moment. At least you didn't put it back in.
We've all been here.
Okay.
It'll come up next week, and maybe, somebody may be strapping me into my seat.
Again, I just follow up on what Joe said. Anthony, how much did we actually collect in paid participation?
I can get you that number. I don't have it handy right at the moment.
Is it 110,000?
No, so 110,000, the amount budget to budget. In the original budget, there was $110,000 budgeted for pay for play. Right after a referendum, we noticed a transportation line that we were over budgeted on, so we did a transfer. So the revised budget for pay to play, I believe, is 64,100. But when we're going budget to budget, we need to make up that gap of 110. I don't have the number.
But we based it on the revenue of 64,000, correct?
Right,
Because we
that's the
had that
revised budget.
presentation at operations where we'd asked for an update on the pay to participate revenue. We
Yep.
had discussed that at.
So at your meeting next week on Wednesday night, we're doing our normal monthly meeting. So on the budget position listing, you will have an updated revenue amount through December 31st of what we've collected for any one of those revenues, of which pay to play is one.
But that's only gonna be 2 seasons, you still have a third
Third
season
is
remaining.
Correct.
Right.
I mean, across the board, we're asking our high school students to pick up $175,000 worth of budget expense here between pay to play and parking fees. It's just.
Well, then you've got AP fees, you've got.
Everything, and we brought this up because 2 of us have high school seniors sitting here.
But that's not why, I mean, I can afford to pay it, that's not my complaint, it's for the students who can afford to pay it. And I think, Mr. Lipinski was kind enough to give us a report, and numbers are down. I understand that enrollment's down, we have a very small senior class, but I think that factored in.
We'll find out.
So, well, I was gonna say, we may or we may not.
Yeah.
But I just piggyback off that, if we do reinstate pay to play, I would strongly advise us to do a flat fee, because I think what happened this time, we charged per sport. And I think parents said to their kids, pick one. Whereas before, if you paid $100 for the year, that was better. And then parents were like, well, I already paid, you might as well play 3 sports. So just a caution going forward.
And if we suggest, I will vote for pay to play next week. If we charge every after-school activity and every sport in every school across the board.
Make it equitable.
That I would do, but on the backs of our high school students.
Okay, we can.
Yeah, stop me.
We'll save it for the
deliberations. Roll on
deliberations.
it. If we charge everybody else.
Point taken, point taken. Okay, Wendy.
No?
Oh,
I'm good for now.
okay.
I don't think you want me to come out of the, you're so used to me just, no.
No, I thought you
Good night,
were.
Mr. Lawson.
Page 30? Well, we did, Mr. Shagru was kind enough to go through them all, but just, thank you, sir. 31.
This isn't exactly on 31, it's just an afterthought, sorry about this. The Naviance. No, stop, Chrissy, stop. The Naviance, 5,700 and something you had mentioned, and I don't mean that disrespectfully, it's just in my mind.
5,735.
Thank you.
Yep.
What is that for? How does that work? I know it's a small number, I'm just curious on the.
One thing that, I think that we need to set straight relative to Naviance, it is a data warehouse. Does it offer some other things there? But for the most part, it is a means for our guidance department to electronically communicate with colleges. So it houses our PSAT, SAT scores. Our teachers work through the platform to submit letters of recommendation and upload letters of recommendation for colleges. The Common App for students applying to colleges is housed there. We also work with some scholarship information is housed there. So it is a data warehouse in which we and other schools now communicate electronically to colleges. It is not a magic bullet. It is not some wonderful, that's what it does.
No.
And I think but I think that people need to understand. I know it was never, from my perspective, it was never billed as this magic bullet. It was billed as a data warehouse, and now in the means of electronic communications with colleges, this is how we are now required to communicate with them.
Right.
So that's what that is.
But that dollar amount.
Most universities and colleges will only accept.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, yes. So that fee is the licensing fee to use that.
Each year.
Yes.
I just want to be clear, each year.
Yes.
And to that point, sometime down the road, I would love to see a more robust presentation of Naviance and what we're doing and what we have. I think we've missed that opportunity. I will be advocating for that, and hopefully we can get that out there, because it is not the end-all be-all. It is a tool, and I think that a lot of parents struggle with it. I think there's a lot of struggling period with Naviance, and we could do a better job. So I'd like to see that. But thank you.
Angie?
So back to the Naviance, are there different packages? I mean, do we buy are there different tiers of accessibility?
We buy the program, the package that allows us to communicate effectively with the colleges. I can get you more information as to what the tiers are, but for example, there's another $5,700 or $5,800, I'm going to it right now, for example, in our language lab. We pay $5,875 for our software for our language lab. Software licensing costs a lot of money.
I think you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. I don't care what it costs.
Right.
I know we have to have it, and we
Right.
have to use it.
Right.
From a parent, user-in perspective, it's god-awful. So
But
my
we don't
question.
want, it is a data warehouse, that's
Okay,
all it
but-
is.
But from a parent perspective, when you say it's not the end-all be-all, we're being told by the school, I feel like, that it is the end-all be-all. Go to Naviance, that's a Naviance, everything's a Naviance.
Well, if you want to
And so
do-
that's
Right, so-
that's fine. But
Yeah.
what I'm saying is, are there other features that we don't pay for that would make it more user-friendly, that would make it more accessible to parents? I mean, I feel like I'm pretty tech savvy. I get in that thing and I'm like, what the heck? I mean, I can't find anything. And I know I spend the guidance counselor's time because I'm
Right.
constantly emailing her, like, where's this? Where's this? Why
Right,
didn't this?
right.
So my question to you is, could we spend another $5,000 and get the next tier up package
No,
that
I'll
may
look
be
for
a
that.
little more
I
user-friendly?
don't know that, and I'll look for you. I don't know what other tiers there are, what other packages, but I can definitely investigate
Okay.
It
that
may
for you.
well
Thank
be
you.
worth it
Oh.
in the long run.
Sure, I'll
It'd
look
be
into
worth
that,
it, my-
absolutely.
Well,
10 grand.
How long have you been talking about this?
And I get them on 31, but 32? And 33?
Question? What was it here? Oh, I don't think this was addressed, let's see, music, rental, non-instructional music, 54,420.
Right, 54,420,
Yeah,
that's the lease that we have for our music equipment,
for equipment,
for instruments.
but, okay, but it says non-instructional, oh, so it's
It's rental,
rentals for music equipment,
that's right.
but
So we
it's
are,
considered non-instructional?
that's the way it's classified.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty stock number I see, like, that's
Yep.
22,000, so that's rentals for equipment we own. Does that then include any repair with that, or because I see that
We
you
have a
mentioned the
lease,
3,000?
that's part of the package, the lease agreement, there is repair, but then we also own, for example, on the 54,310.
Right.
You'll see we have some equipment, some instruments that we own as a school that we're responsible for repairing and maintaining as well.
Okay, and then I know we have a very generous, the Band-Aids group, right?
Yep.
Now, does that, that's above and beyond?
That's
that-
correct.
That supplements? or-
That's correct.
or- Right?
Yeah.
Doesn't supplant these items here?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
1033. And 34.
I just got a question on it's just intramurals, but that's really interscholastic, right? The bottom there?
Talking BLE 32040?
That's exactly it.
Yeah, that's our interscholastic
Yeah,
sports.
so-
Yeah.
I got confused. I thought we had a great intramural program.
No, that would be a heck of an intramural program, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
Really.
Could we get a rename on that? Because it does look weird. right?
Yeah,
saw that too,
that's how I
INT.
saw it the first time.
If it's
Because I'm-
interscholastic, that's what it should say. So
It
we'll
should be,
fix that.
I think it should be interscholastic.
These on the budget
bottom.
sheet, right?
At the
It's
bottom of the
listed different, right?
It says intramural, which is, yeah.
So that can be fixed, once we have a board adopted budget, and we put out either change pages or new books, we'll pick up that change.
Okay. Thank you.
And 35. And 36.
I had a couple questions unaddressed.
Mhm.
Mr. Shabru, can you tell me on the speech line, 51115?
Page number, please.
Oh, I'm 36.
Oh, okay, you are on 36.
In the special education portion at the bottom?
No,
speech.
in
Report.
speech.
Oh, okay,
Speech.
thank
In
you.
speech, yep.
Thank you.
The 78 versus, that went up $70,000. What is that?
That's a salary, that's an Anthony question.
That's a redeployment
Because I only have 800,000, not
to the
11.
high school.
I'm sorry, say again, Anthony?
That's a redeployment to the high school for .5 FTE, realigned to that location. It's not an
Okay, so it's just a
increase in
move.
staffing,
It's
it's just a
somebody's
move.
moving, okay.
Yep.
Was that the, because I thought I saw it in the middle school.
Yes, that's
Yep.
where it is.
Yeah.
And so I'm assuming then under the SPED, the two top lines are the same thing?
Yes.
Correct.
It's a realignment?
Right, most of that is realignments from Scottico up to the high school,
Okay.
in both the certified and non-certified and
And
sped.
in both speech and SPED?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Is it fair to say that we know there is some salary adjustment, but when you see those larger numbers, it's primarily realignment?
Yep.
And that's why this discussion is so important to bring that out to light.
One more thing on this page, and that's also under SPED, the computer tech hardware, 57340, that it went from 0 to 2,500, just wondering what that is.
That's the 10 Chromebooks.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Thank
It'd be-
you.
It would be great to get a realignment cheat sheet.
We-
Yeah, well, it would be like, it would be the size of
That's
a
on the
book.
book.
It would be the size of a book.
Oh, well, then forget it.
I bet, I bet.
JT?
Quick question on the top there, third line down on page 36 there, the purchase services, right?
Yep.
You said the PSAT is 16,100?
Yep.
Is there a breakout of, because there's two PSATs probably captured in that, right? The
There's-
PSAT 10, 11,
Right.
and then the 8, 9,
Yep.
which I know is considerably less
It's,
expensive.
yes, and it's, if you buy in a suite package, the SUITE, if you buy in the package of all three grades, you get a better test, price per test, as opposed to if we just buy the 10, 11.
Okay.
You don't quote me on it, but this is like, it's $16 a test if you go just 10, 11.
Right.
It is $12 a test if you go, if you include the ninth
Capture
graders,
those,
and then the
right.
ninth grade test is, like, it's $10.
So if I can expand on that, is there a thought, Dr. Longo, are we using the NWA test in 8th grade? Could there be an option to extend that beyond even to the 8th grade, the PSAT 8 there in the middle school, right? To capture then kind of that transition from 8th grade to 9th grade as well? Just a thought. I don't know if that's been a discussion, or, because I felt like we had a discussion about the PSAT 8, 9 last year, and I wasn't sure that it just helped if there's stuff in here, but then.
There's pros and cons for us at this point in time. We're
Okay.
still very reliant on a reading level in grade 8 as a balancing act, really,
Right.
between our running record assessment the teachers give
Okay.
and NWEA, which is going to give us a reading level for all students entering the high school.
Okay.
That being said, though, there have been teachers advocating for an alignment between NWEA and PSAT and the projection on SAT. So I've been working with the data coach to see if he can look into the alignment, because NWEA doesn't print that out of parent report.
Right.
And we're able to do that, but our ability to have those conversations with parents right now is limited. And so that would be something we'd want to get out in front of before we ever published it, so that we
Okay.
can have discussions about what the scores mean and how they lead into one
Fair
another.
enough, fair enough, okay. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to take a 4.5-minute recess at this point.
Greg, thank you, nicely done.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Before we get started on Department of Instruction.
I'm sorry, the moderator needs to take these out.
this for a regulatory deal.
Did you see my email too?
Let me know.
We will.
Yes, Bill, yes.
Okay, and last component for the evening, other than public comment, Department of Instruction.
Good evening.
We're right on schedule.
So I'm here tonight to present to you the budget proposal for both the Department of Instruction and Adult Education, which both rest under the Department of Instruction budget. I went through my budget today with a fine-tooth comb several times. You will not find any acronyms that are not backed up by full word explanations to kind of help you, because there is a lot in here to kind of take in.
Do we have a hard copy?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, I have it. I have it. Thank you. I was hogging them myself.
We weren't talking
I have some from my
presentation.
colleagues.
Thank you, Tammy.
Yes, yes, there you go.
Yeah, there's no promises.
Oh my gosh, okay. So, like my colleagues, I did post the mission statement because it's important, I think, especially in my position, who oversees really all the work within the schools around curriculum, instruction, and assessment, and more than that. 504 work, homelessness, residency, and all this ties together when we're looking at the whole child. But I want to bring your attention to the core words here that are cited around effective instruction and dynamic curriculum.
We thank you, but the font is very small.
Oh, I'm sorry. I went really big here, and then I tried to get as many on one page as I could.
I'm using
I
that
could
little
get you a
flash.
better pen. Oh, good. I could get you a better rendition of this.
You can go right up there.
Yeah.
It's huge.
You
up
give me
there.
something to strive for. I appreciate that. So the effective instruction and dynamic curriculum portion is really what I want to focus on here, because we have put a lot of time, energy, you've backed it financially to support the writing of curriculum. And we've embarked on a journey just this year where we're writing curriculum not just once in the summer, but actually 3 times a year. I'm excited to announce to you that as of this year, we had 16 curriculum written in the fall. We have another 16 where teachers have applied to write. We've had more teachers apply to write than actually what we need to write. That's extremely exciting. Around 16 new curriculum. We'll post another 16 in the summer. That'll be 50 curriculum written in 1 year. So I want you to take in the magnitude of that work of our teachers and effectively the work of our office in organizing that. Dynamic curriculum is so critical in today's day and age because if we don't have the back and forth discussion with teachers and create the ability to have a living document, what happens is the teachers identify gaps in curriculum and then they try to fill them with different places like Teachers Pay Teachers or some online resource because they know what's best for their kids, they've identified it, they don't want to wait for us to change curriculum for it to have an effect. The issue with that, though, is that every child doesn't have the assured experience that the board votes on when you approve curriculum. The only way to make sure that that curriculum becomes dynamic is to have superior oversight and many, many conversations that bring it to life with someone who can propose those changes and work with teachers to help them really embrace what's there and to create pathways and opportunities for kids. So I just wanted to remind you of kind of where we are. When I arrived here 3 years ago, it seems like yesterday, we started to develop the theories of action together, and we have developed that common commitment to student learning and thinking about that student-centered culture. And everything in my presentation really aligns nicely to that. The work on the right-hand side, which are all district initiatives, would not be possible without the hard work of every building administrator and central office administrator. I think that's really important for me to say to you because this is ongoing, deeply embedded work. It's not something that you can say, check, it's done, let's move on. We'll never be done, but there's a depth to this that I hope I really kind of get to the heart to tonight in helping you understand why I'm asking for what I'm asking for in the superintendent's proposed budget. I took you on a journey earlier this year to the work we've done in the planned administrative retreat over the summer, where in meeting with and leading the principals through the work of moving from if to them and talking to them about what frameworks and supports they needed both for themselves and their building in order to develop and implement professional learning opportunities for teachers that were meaningful, but also from the teachers themselves. What is it that you need from us to help support you in your classrooms? We've developed and we've been pretty successful at aligning our feedback mechanisms within district. You've heard about the connection with our new teacher induction system. I was actually called to present on our work here in New Milford in Texas at the Learning Forward Conference, and it was such an honor to talk about how we've aligned our systems for effective feedback, not only through the evaluation process, but where it matters most in classrooms on a daily basis by ongoing visits by their colleagues as well. So we're excited that we've begun that work, and we plan to continue it with your support next year and beyond. We were able to develop that portfolio of materials for teachers. Leading off this year, each teacher was provided a folder that housed all of the elements of their evaluation, so they know up front who they're being evaluated by, how many visits they'll have, and piece together everything that they'll need in one place for them to feel successful leading into the year. And I have the assistant principals as well as the building principals to thank for their work on that. Here are some of the highlights of the Department of Instruction. Going back from 2015, but as I said, they're ongoing. I won't read them all to you, although I'm proud of each and every one of them, and this does spill onto another slide. But really, the curriculum development is a real highlight for us. The English Learner Homework Club at Sarah Noble, when you look at the money that we get from the state for bilingual education, in order to support all these bilingual teachers that are mandated by state law, I think you'll be surprised to see that we're able to do something like this and support the teachers through our operating budget with no support from the state. Except from this grant. This year, we did get a little bit more money for bilingual grants, so we were able to expand our homework club to 2 days after school at Sarah Noble, and we've had 28 kids attend, which is the largest number of students we've ever had. Just as exciting, we've been able to, because I oversee adult ed as the director, the facilitator of adult ed and I have been having a lot of conversations about all the English language support that we need in district. And I asked her, you know, what would be some ways that we could utilize some of the staff that you have during the day. And she came up with the most wonderful opportunity. She has a teacher who's going to be working with our parents on site at open houses, parent conference nights, and holding meetings at the central office downstairs, inviting parents beginning next month. We have the flyer ready to go. We've had it translated in the 14 different languages we have here in district to go out to help them understand how our school system functions, what questions they might have for us around some of the programs that we have, and how we can help support them while in their time here with us and their children's time here with us.
Can I just, you said 14 languages here in
14, yes. I always like to highlight the work of the hardworking teachers in our district. They really answer the call when I have meetings for curriculum council, wellness, new teacher induction, and our professional learning committee. The title grants, I write 1, 2, 3, and 4. You've seen all of those grants as well as the Connecticut Community Foundation grant. So we do try to utilize these resources that we do get from the state and from outside agencies as much as we can. And we also look to assist our community agencies as well in supporting their efforts and supporting our school system. So, I don't know how that typo happened, but that should say instruction, and I will make that change. The percent increase is not equal to what you see in the budget book. So in the budget book, you see a 7.07% increase in the Department of Instruction. So if I could kind of take you through that book just for a second, I want to bring your attention that this department is charged with overseeing all of curriculum instruction across district and assessment. But when you look at the areas contained in the budget under DOI, a lot of them are costs that are outside of my control. Transportation, fixed cost. Increase in the Danbury Magnet School tuition, out of my control. We have tuition to send teachers to AP training in my budget. Great thing, should be there, but that's part of it. There is some assistance to the schools to help support their efforts with the work that's happening there. But if you look at areas like technology is contained in my budget. There is talented and gifted contained in my budget, which is for maybe the top 3% of students in our district. Science enrichment, same number. The two teachers are actually working together to make sure that students who overlap in those services can attain them. You frequently ask me about what about the kids in the middle. When you look at this budget, there isn't a lot there reflected for students in the middle. That leads to my request for a director of curriculum instruction and assessment. So when you look through the book in a little while with me, you'll see that we've taken out adult ed last year, we've left that out. We've had a lot of reduction in salaries in the Department of Instruction overall. I had 4 coaches turn over last year. Some went on to retirement, some went on to higher level positions in other districts. The coaches I was able to onboard collectively with the administration, we're very proud to have here in New Milford. They took, their salaries were less than what the salaries were of the former coaches that were with us. And so even though the budget, I call it my budget, but it's our budget, the Department of Instruction budget itself was cut $80,000 last year. That $80,000 was directly affected through curriculum and professional development. It did not affect some of the other lines in the budget that are contained there that can't be touched. So when this department takes a cut, it takes a cut to basically the heart of the schools and the organization. The professional learning we provide to teachers, which directly affects students, professional learning for our building administrators, that directly affects teachers, that directly affects students, and curriculum development, which is what keeps our organization running, and it's the reason why we're here. So that's a little bit about kind of where we were and what's here. So I just want to head into the need for this director of curriculum and assessment. So the board has been wonderful in supporting our curriculum efforts. We've redesigned the template we use to deliver curriculum to the universal backward learning design, which is going to come in very handy when we talk about the vision of the graduate work that Mr. Chagru and even Dr. Longo and I collectively will be embarking on with your support and help. We need help, and I've been saying this now for a few years, but it's become more and more evident that as we have an increase in the amount of curriculum that we're writing, that it's becoming more and more difficult for us to keep up with the vetting process. The vetting process entails looking at a rubric at about 13 to 15 different aspects of what make curriculum great. Is it designed to help support all learners? Is it scaffolded to support the learning of all students, regardless of where they're starting from? Does it provide a direct link to a standard, and then throughout the course of time, is a student able to have enough exposure to different learning opportunities to be able to prove to us as an end result that they've mastered the content that we need them to, or have at least grown to a point where we know to take them next. That's a heavy lift for teachers to do. So I thank you for your support in helping to allow us to revamp the template, but also to provide training to teachers. But our next step here is to move vetting out of just the office of the assistant superintendent, meaning one person vetting it, specifically in grade levels right now where we're going to be moving towards more writing. At the high school, I've been very fortunate to be able to access the help of the department chairs for content. But when you're talking about 15 plus different standards aligned to different coursework, it becomes very difficult to kind of keep up with that. But right now, we're doing the best that we can with what we have, but that is an area that we know we need some support. We also need help with the alignment of curriculum from grade level to grade level. When we talk about, and I'll bring it up now, so I could probably skip that slide later, when we talk about the graduation requirement for the class of 2023, it calls on us to really think about high school experiences starting at the middle school. And I've heard that echoed in your sentiments of what are we preparing kids for, and ultimately what do we want them to graduate our high school having to know and be able to do in order to become successful at whatever it is they choose. In order for that to happen, we have to start early. What the mandate proposes is that we take a look at the courses we offer at the middle school and decide whether or not we want to offer high school credit for those courses. Currently, we don't. That's a wonderful idea. We're not able to do it right now in every academic area. When we look at where we are able to do it, it does free up some credit acquisition for students at the high school. What the state also allows in the legislation is for students to be able to test out of an academic area based on our assessment that we give. That requires us, if we're going to do something like that, to look at every piece of curriculum we have, identify the standards that are most important, make sure that every assessment we have is directly connected and is measurable, so that when a student takes an assessment and passes it, and maybe can opt out of a course if the board decides to go that route, we have to have the ability to prove, have a body of proof that that student can do it. And that rests in having assessments that are full-bodied assessments that allow kids to be able to communicate their thinking, clearly articulate to somebody else what they've learned, apply it. All of those 4 C's that you see that are required under NEASC's Portrait of the Graduate. We've begun some of that work in the majority of the curriculum that we've begun to write. And I feel at this time, based on my analysis of where we are, that the teachers who wrote the curriculum are best suited to speak to kind of where that alignment is and how they're executing those assessments in their classroom. When you start to look at what the middle school knows about what's happening at the high school, or what the high school knows about what's happening at the middle school, that's when it becomes a little bit more of a gray area. Right now, if we want teachers to have those conversations, we're talking about doing something impossible, pulling teachers out of the middle school and high school during the school day to have conversations around curriculum. If you were to put a director of curriculum instruction in the mix, it would allow for, as I said earlier, that live curriculum component. So meeting with teachers on a regular basis, establishing a feedback system to find out what's working, what additions or changes need to be made, how viable is it, are teachers liking how things are going, what changes do we need to make. And that'll help with all the other areas that are here. Pacing, the development of common assessments that are measurable. I've heard some of you say, and I've heard a few parents say, the report card needs to be looked at. None of that can happen without your assessments aligned to standards. None of that. What happens when you create a change in the report card without having the backup of the assessments, you really put a lot of pressure on the system. Teachers will start to build assessments because they want to do the right thing. They want to build assessments so that they have enough data to support what they're going to say to the parent. So in order for us to move forward, I think it's critical for us to begin to think kind of forward thinking. How are we going to move from where we are? And again, we've made great strides. But we've gotten to a point, and I wouldn't be putting this out there, I wouldn't have had the conversation with Dr. Tracy if I didn't feel that it was a critical need at this point with all that's coming up. In order to move to where we need to, in order to meet the needs of all of our kids, to create pathways at the high school that we're proud of, to create experiences for kids that are measurable and are supportive and engaging, then we need to have somebody on the ground working alongside the teachers. When I think about the new science standards, this is kind of where it really began to hit home for me. So after several meetings in district with our teachers who are really the masters of science, right? They know the standards, they've done a lot of training, we've invested in a lot of training, we have all of our teachers trained, I'm proud to say, at the middle school and high school, as many as we can that are currently teaching courses, we're still working on it. They've had the NGSX training. That is one of the most comprehensive trainings that you could have right now across the state. I have a direct plan of action to address, thanks to the teachers, the practices standards, professional learning that will help expose them to the standards and gain a better understanding. What we're hearing from different organizations is that districts should not embark upon writing their own curriculum in this area. So you'll see, because it's going to come up soon, I've purchased a couple of the correct units because I wanted to look at them myself. They vetted them through the EQUIP rubric, which is what we use to vet our curriculum internally. It's one of the best documents I've ever seen. I'm going to take a look at that, but what I know from other districts that we visited that have used correct units, specifically at the elementary school, where teachers are teaching 5 to 6 different subject areas, some related, some completely not, based on topic, they're going to need support with someone on the ground helping them have detailed notes and Google Slides to talk them through what comes next and why. And so that rollout that I've planned over the next 5 years that I'll share with you, if we decide to move forward collectively with those units, I'm looking at 1 unit a year in grades 1, 3, 5, 7. And then we'll look at the high school later to kind of ease in those units to get teachers the professional learning they need and to really help them understand the curriculum. we're not alone in our pursuit of having a better understanding of each of the standards. When I think back to when the Common Core first came out, many districts jumped onto purchasing products that were ready-made to help teachers overcome the hurdle of, how many ways can I teach this? I'm not really sure. I didn't get this in my teacher prep program. I need support and I need tools to do that. What that did is create a really good system of helping with tools, but it didn't really help with better understanding what the standards were asking, and therefore it affected how we were measuring them. So you heard a lot about calibration. We've begun that work, but if we continue down this road of just looking at a few assessments at a time, parceling it out, trying to do this with release time, it'll be years and years and years before we can have impact that we would like to see in our scores overall. So I'm going to jump ahead here because you've seen this slide already and I'm extremely proud of it. This is that 7.2%, I want to say, increase year over year for New Milford in English language arts. This is thanks to the hard work of the staff in overcoming what the units of study are asking of them to be able to do in reading and writing, but also to better understand through this program the standards and how they're measured. This is a comprehensive system that was purchased and brought into district, and it really, in my opinion, and based on the data, which is factual, we're starting to make significant gains, and we're better understanding what a student's reading level really means, how to diagnose it, how to better intervene when they need it. So this is really a testament to what understanding curriculum and the alignment to assessment can do. This is a testament of bringing, really, this is the story of math across the state, right? When I look at Governor Lamont's plan for education, he mentions looking at helping principals better understand math. My advice would be, take a look in helping us break down the standards for math and the math practice standards for our teachers so they clearly understand within the year that we have kids with us, what is it that they should be able to know and be able to do by the end of grade level? And what does it look like in the grade level before and what's coming next for them? How deep, how much time could we spend on it? And when you use a program, that gets lost. When you use a program, sometimes you're worried about sticking to that program for fidelity. We need to do an analysis of how closely aligned that program is to what teachers need to be doing with kids in front of them day to day. And I think there's a lot of hard work that's gone into getting where we are, but we could definitely be in a much better place. We're embarking on the study, as I told you we would. At our next curriculum council meeting, we have a vertical team meeting set up. That's only going to launch the discussion. The curriculum council meets 4 times a year. And because of all the other councils that we have and the teachers that are shared between those councils, this would be a lot of work to meet more regularly to do that. And it certainly wouldn't be able to inform the work of all of our staff who can't attend those meetings. So here's the staffing makeup for the department which I oversee. Basically, to handle all of what I just spoke to you about, I have a split instructional coach at the K2 level, 1 for math, 1 for English language arts. I have 2 coaches on site at Sarah Noble, 1 math and 1 English language arts. If you're quickly doing the math in your head, you can see pretty quickly that these coaches are outnumbered quite significantly, and they're in high demand, I'm excited to say, with the change in definition of the role and the hard work of building relational trust. They're really taking off, and I think if you ask most teachers at this point, they would say that they wish they had more exposure to the coaches, specifically for professional learning. We also have at Schaghticoke, I made a change to make the coach that was only in ELA for a while more of a humanities coach. So we're already seeing gains in that because ELA and social studies are starting to move to wanting to use the same writing rubric so kids better understand their expectation and can see samples of what's expected of them, which is what adults ask for all the time. And if we're teaching kids to advocate for themselves, this is a really good way for us to go. So I'm proud of the work that's there. And we have our data coach who is supporting math and science, but also continuing to do the work of looking at data with teachers across district. So pretty spread thin there. The high school has no coaches, and they have no curriculum support. The department chairs really are in place to support professional learning. So their training is all around going into classrooms, supporting their colleagues about instructional practices that they see, very similar to a coach. We want to move them away from the curriculum work because when you, and I'm getting ahead of myself, but when you mix the role of a coach or a department chair with that of curriculum, it muddies the water of what the intention is, what the results are, and it really takes up time away from instruction because we're continuously getting pulled back to have conversations about maybe what's going on in pacing or what a standard means, and oh, we need an assessment for this, let's create one together because it's coming up and we need it. So we want to move from being reactive to proactive, and I say that with the utmost respect for our teachers who are working through new programs and doing the best they can with what they have. So the current budget, as I said, is just really all about the money that I have control of to develop curriculum, to train to write curriculum, and to provide professional learning. I have some staffing in my budget around English language learners, and so that Sarah Noble position, you'll see, and then you see the bilingual staffing appearing at the building level. What this budget does not support is something else I asked for, which was an English language coordinator, K-12. So when I talk to you about curriculum support, and I'll get to EL in a second, the curriculum support overview, all the things you see there are keys to success in helping teachers to understand the curriculum, be all that they could be in terms of the creation of assessments and implementation. But our neighbors are supporting the work much differently than we are in New Milford, and I thought it would be important for you to see that. Done a lot of research. In the last couple of years, 2 of our neighbors have added a director of curriculum and instruction because of the mounting work on teachers in those districts in trying to analyze and create what's not there for them. Some neighbors support things differently. They support the work through the assistant superintendent with their director of curriculum. Some have an assistant superintendent, a supervisor of K-5, and a supervisor of 6-12. And that is curriculum, separate from special education, of which they also have that. And they have coaches. I should have written down under assistant superintendent and director that they also have coaches. You need someone to oversee the work of the day-to-day organization with curriculum, that structure, but you also need to kind of help support the teachers with what it looks like in practice and have a model. Some districts have an assistant superintendent, a director of curriculum, various coordinator positions, and when I say various, I mean all the way down to talented and gifted, residency, I mean you name it, it's out there. Curriculum and coaches, and then some have just a director of curriculum, coordinators, and coaches. We only have an assistant superintendent and coaches. And I would say that we don't have enough coaches to meet the needs that are prevalent there and meet what our teachers are asking for. So I spoke to this already. We do rely very heavily on a few, and I say a few in number because I didn't want you to be confused and think only a few of them are hardworking. They're all hardworking. They're just few in number, and our staff of hardworking teachers to help support curriculum implementation, and the administrators have a role in that too. They do their best to try to monitor pacing and to see how data entry is going and how they can support teachers with better understanding how to use that data. But because the curriculum support is lacking here, one of the things that we notice is, and I frequently hear this from the coaches, I meet with the coaches 2 to 3 times a month, once for a book study, once with the English language arts team across district, and once with the math team. And every coach tells the same story. The teachers are working so hard. They really want to talk about pacing, or there's an issue with pacing, and they want you to come down and talk to them. So oftentimes what happens is the coach brings it back to me to find out, like, what are our next steps? Teachers have to wait for me to review where they are in pacing, understand where they are, where it is in alignment from grade to grade. Sometimes it's we're not going to make it through this bend, it's called. It's really part of the unit. We're not going to make it through here, so what should we do? So now I have to go through and compact that to make sure that kids are going to get the skills they need, even if they don't make it all the way through the unit. This is really good. These are really great things that teachers are bringing up. They don't want kids to go without having access to this core curriculum. But what happens is they have to wait for me to do that. Then I've got to schedule the time to go down there. Then I meet with them in a block of time with the coach, and we work through the problem together. But I always feel like time is of the essence. If you ask any teacher, I'm working really hard and really fast to get down there. I'm working nights, weekends. I leave no stone unturned. But it really is hard for teachers to wait to kind of get an answer when they're ready to move on. They really want to know because they want to prep and they want to prepare. And that's been happening more and more often because we're implementing new units specifically at the middle school. So it's often something that we talk about a lot there, and again, with very good reason. I'm very proud of the work that they're doing. And and then curriculum vetting, we talked about that. There is a waiting period there. I'm still vetting curriculum that came in earlier this year because there's a lot of back and forth. It's not one and done. As I go through the indicators, I send back feedback to the teachers and docs. They make revisions, they bring it back to me, I look at it again, I review it, sometimes I send it back. We can go back and forth as many as 5 or 6 times depending on items that might be missing. And again, for most, they went through the 3-day training, but this is still a learning process. So I'm grateful for the support of the department chairs in helping to get them kind of to the next level whenever they need it, when I'm not on site.
And Alicia, these teachers don't get paid stipends for writing this curriculum, right?
They do. They do get paid to write it, yes. I thought this was important for you to note. 15% of our teaching staff is new to the profession, and I define that as within their first 5 years of teaching. That's a pretty significant number, and it's only going to grow over time because of attrition and retirement. When I look at the curriculum, I view it as, if I were a brand new teacher coming into district, would I be able to pick this up tomorrow and implement it without question? And I don't think we're there yet, but I would like to get us there. I want an assured experience for every child across district, regardless of whose classroom they're in, regardless of how many kids are there. Like, I just want the teachers to feel ready and have everything that they need to do that work. And I just really, this position will help to differentiate for learners at all levels and all subject areas. I frequently hear, we have a talented and gifted teacher, but she works with grades 3 through 8. What about the primary school? Well, we don't identify to grade 3. But that doesn't mean we can't work harder at supporting our effort collectively and getting teachers there and helping them to differentiate for kids who are progressing, but also kids that even might be struggling and need some scaffolding, and we have some work to do there. I think everyone in Connecticut does, but we do too. So I asked for an English language coordinator. It didn't make it. It's on the chopping block, but I'm still concerned about it because this position in particular is incredibly necessary. Right now, we have a teacher who is teaching at the high school and has 2 periods off to take care of these responsibilities alongside my office. We have 14 languages to engage in learning, causing teachers to ask for support. There's not a day that goes by that I don't get a message from a teacher, I don't run into a teacher who says, Alicia, help. Chris, help. Greg, help. I don't know how to meet the needs of kids who are new to the country. I'm trying my best, but I need support. I need professional learning. I need more training. Like, what could we do? We have a large impact when the language assessment scales, last links, when that testing it was done in January. That gets coordinated. We get data back. We exit kids based on it. We have to do a better job. We need someone to help teachers understand what those results mean. We don't have that right now. We get the data in their hands, but there's a lot of question on how to use it. Home language survey coordination, that's a state law that has to go out. Same thing with Last Link, state required. That survey goes out, we get it back. We have to arrange for services for all kids that are needed. This is one person, again, 2 periods off to take care of this. New arrival survey coordination. Oversight of bilingual programs. Right now, that rests in my office and with the principals. Creating a bilingual program is challenging at best. You've got new teachers to the position who need supplies, who want to know, kind of what is the end result for kids by the time we exit them from our program. And if they're going to transition to another school and still have to be in bilingual, because we have 3 years, as soon as they enter our bilingual program, to exit them, 3. And then we have to think about what happens next for them. Some of them may not be ready really to exit based on our criteria. Scheduling of tutors and teachers in all buildings, that comes from my office, and I work in conjunction with the principals to make sure that the few tutors that we do have for EL are disseminated across district. It would be helpful to have guidance as critical, just as it is for 504 students and just as it is for students who have special needs. Our offices collectively, my office and Laura's, make sure that all of this is aligned and correct in the system. But it comes off of reporting sheets that come from the building level, and those reporting sheets are done with myself and the teacher at the high school who's off for 2 periods, trying to manage this for, you're talking about Schaghticoke at the high school and Sarah Noble, so 3 schools. Supplies for budget, I frequently meet with this teacher and we talk about what's needed. I talk to this teacher when we write grants to see, you know, what are the needs? Where are we? What else could we be doing? And the oversight of the homework club and the arrangement of transportation all goes through my office right now in organizing that program, communication with families, because we don't have someone to oversee it and answer the questions of the teachers who are on the ground day to day. Ms. Bilko is on site, and she does her best whenever questions arise to help, but it would be really nice to get feedback on how that program is doing as it's going on so we can make adjustments. I would love to have this person because they'd be a liaison to families of newcomers. I can't imagine how incredibly stressful it is and scary when you're new to a country that you've never been in before, and now you're being transported to school where you have a whole new peer group you've never met, and teachers that you may feel don't understand you because they don't know what's been going on. So I would really like to have that. Right now, the principals do the best job that they can using the translation app. We've translated our documents for registration. We talked about what we did last year for kindergarten registration. Again, I feel like we've done all that we can, but when we say there's still needs, I just want to make you aware of that these needs still exist. And again, this is not in the superintendent's budget. We've talked about it, and this was actually eliminated, but the need's not going away.
I just want to remind us to budget our time.
Yep. Okay, thank you. When we look at the number of speakers that we have, here's the projection. So there's the 20 based on the October 1st number of a bilingual teacher for the high school, the middle school, and Sarah Noble. The reason why we asked for another ESL teacher at Sarah Noble is because we're at 50. 50, and they're not all Spanish speakers. As you can see, I've listed for you, we have Portuguese, Swahili, Vietnamese, Italian, and Arabic as well. And you can see on the right-hand side, the current level of support, and then the budget request.
Could we get this paper big?
Yes, yes, absolutely. So here's the priorities in the budget. I've spoke to all of them. I haven't talked about social emotional, but we'll get there, hopefully. You asked me about the impact of legislation. Here's the bilingual education's historical funding by the state. There we are, highlighted in 1819, $3,877 to meet the needs of our bilingual students, of which we have 3 identified by state law, 3 schools to have a bilingual teacher. Not nearly enough funding.
But doesn't next year that weighting come in, that we get additional monies for ELL students?
We also get Title III funding, and we it's still not enough.
I'm sure.
But we use that to support our English learners outside of bilingual, because we have a lot of needs there as well, and that goes to things like supplies, workbooks, things that we know we need in addition to the curriculum that we have to support.
But isn't there some weighting added to ECS starting the 1920 school year?
I haven't heard of that yet, but that would be wonderful.
Sure
I'll look out for that.
You mean more credit for youngsters who need this assistance?
Yeah.
Oh, we'll look
They're
into that.
phasing it in. I think it's
okay.
like 5%. I mean, it's not a ton, but it's a little bit.
That's good to know. So, as I said, we were able to extend that bilingual homework club. And then we have the impact of legislation going on with the graduation requirements. You've seen this before. I just want to remind you, as Mr. Shagru said, that this starts effective next year. When Mr. Shagru ran freshman orientation, we had to put an asterisk in the handbook around the physical education health credit to make parents aware that that could change, and that we're awaiting board decision on where that'll head, and we'll keep them informed. You can kind of see what's detailed out here. We're in that 1 credit mastery-based diploma assessment is where I kind of want to bring your attention in the next slide. We need to create, as Mr. Shagru said, a second general health course and reduce a PE credit. We've got that portrait of the graduate work on the horizon. And this is, we talked about CAP sending briefs, the Connecticut Association of Public School Superintendents. The second brief that we received was the unpacking of the graduation requirements. This is something that I'd like to do with you in COL, but I wanted to bring it to your attention because when you're asked, why do we need these positions? Here's a main reason why. When you look at the impact of instruction and the fact that the state is calling for equity and rigor, broad-reaching impacts on curriculum, professional learning, administrators, guidance staff, teachers, and students, it begs the question, how could we prepare? Their focus is on learning environment, clear shared outcomes, varied content, materials, and methods of instruction, feedback and practice, complex thinking of students, and transfer. And then this is the second section of the Public Act, and I bring your attention to G. This is where I talked about the intense work that's going to have to happen between the middle school, my office, and the high school. That flexible and multiple pathways to learning, including cross-curricular graduation requirements, career and technical education, virtual learning, work-based learning, service learning, dual enrollment in early college. We're going to have to take stock of everything that we have and everything that we're doing. Courses that are taken in the middle school, internships. It's everything that you're asking for, it's here, and it'll manifest itself when we do the portion of the graduate work, which is really a community effort. Transportation costs, I showed you this last year. This is another unfunded mandate. Students who are in foster care and their parents reside in New Milford, we have to help get them to school. The thinking there, and I agree with it, is to keep a student's school life consistent when their home life might not be because they're moving from foster setting to foster setting. You can see in 2017, 2018, we had $30,000 and up in costs, and that didn't even include December to June, and that was only, remember, this is all non-special education identified students. We also have to provide special transportations for students who are injured and have a 504 plan. When I did the analysis with Anthony's office, as of January 2nd, you can see we're running neck and neck with where we were last year with injuries and trying to get kids here. We're at $26,689. And we also have to pay for kids that have been incarcerated to receive education. There's very few of them. Kids who are hospitalized and need tutoring that are on a 504 plan. So you'll see that in the budget, there's been a line that's been manifested for $15,000 in transportation so that we have the monies to do this. When I wrote the title grant, I did allocate some money for students who are homeless because we have had to transport some homeless students to get them to school when they've lost their ability to get transported in. And we monitor that to see if they still need it, and we support them as much as we can with getting them to school. We still have the impact of legislation around teacher evaluation calibration mandated by the state for the administrators. We have the Student Data Privacy Act that we have to make sure we're adhering to. Looking forward to onboarding a director of technology to kind of pick up where we left off. We've got the next gen science standards. There's an extreme cost to every district in terms of training and curriculum and resources, as you saw manifested in some of the budgets tonight. The high school graduation credits on the horizon. The professional learning that we need around English language learners, and other instructional impacts that we know, that I see, can't come out of the legislative session. They make it through. And I've seen Governor Lamont's education plan to say I'm excited because he is supporting some of what I've heard here today mentioned in terms of studies. He's got short-term and long-term plans, all of which I think will be very interesting to see the outcomes and will help us to make more informed decisions as a community about what the vision of our graduate is here in New Milford. Excuse me. These were, again, some of the budget drivers. I've just highlighted for you what is out of the control of the DOI budget but has manifested itself in there as an increase. I just wanted to highlight some of the wonderful things we're doing for kids. So we do have the Summer Bridge Program happening at Sarah Noble for grades 3, 4, and 5. It's been highly successful, very proud of it. We're hoping to be able to have it again this year. The attendance is consistent. That's great, 81% over the summer. And in years where we've had an extended school year that because of snow that goes on and on, to say that getting out of bed for these kids might be hard in the summer is an understatement. But they're coming and they're working hard and their achievement is showing. And we continue to look at their achievement over time while they're with us, and they're still progressing overall in some of these same areas where they scored high. So the impact there, the return on investment is great. So within the budget lines, you'll see, I just put in there some of what's arrested in there, not necessarily the increases. You'll find in the science enrichment line what rests there to run the science enrichment night and to really execute the Project Lead the Way courses, which is what the science enrichment teacher uses at the K-5 level. Talented and Gifted, I'm grateful, as I'm sure Dr. D. St. Croix is too. If she could speak for herself right now, I'm sure she would love to. We're excited that New Milford Public Schools supports not only the identification, which is required under the law, but also the servicing of talented and gifted students, both in the talented, from the talented lens and the gifted lens. I also want to thank the board because when we brought in the COGAT assessment for identification in grade 3, it's really been helping us to have less identification over time. We're not missing students, I should say. We're not missing students that we may have been missing before when we didn't have this assessment. And it's really helped us to streamline our processes. And for one person in this department, again, I'm sure if she could speak right now, she would tell you, it's been very, very helpful that we've done it now for 2 years in terms of impact to her as an individual trying to execute this program. Instructional testing, so I just wanted to kind of tell you what was in this line. It is the COGAT assessment, which is the cognitive abilities test for talented and gifted. NWEA, the Northwest Evaluation Association assessment for grades K and 8. Lexia, which we use for intervention in small group at the school. So I alluded to the fact that my budget does, so this is for you, Joe, that my budget does support the work around intervention and some other supports in the schools. But what it doesn't include, as you can see, which is what Mr. Shagru spoke to, the high school testing, the preliminary scholastic aptitude test, advanced placement, and the American Council on the Teaching of Foreign Languages. Professional development in that line supports curriculum training, professional learning for administrators from that unfunded mandate, all of the new teacher and education mentoring required by the state. The state did give us some money this year. We are not going to receive it until the end of the year. I just filed the report yesterday that linked every new teacher to their administrator. The state uses that count to determine the funding that we'll get back. In knowing what that funding amount is, we're still going to be in a deficit in New Milford of $12,000. That is an unfunded mandate that will be carried over into next year. We still need, still have in our budget the need for more professional learning around Teachers College, specifically for our coaches to be able to go out, get on-site professional learning and bring it back to execute with teachers and to really help their understanding wherever possible of kind of next steps when they're presented with a teacher who is fabulous and is looking for more feedback. A wonderful problem to have. Then we have the overall professional development needs for our district, presenters and conferences, and all the other purchase services. It's important to note that I share the responsibility of the computer-based instruction program, which rests upstairs in central office. It is meant for expelled students because we're required by law, an unfunded mandate, to provide education to students who have been expelled. We do that. And we do support that, and that's happening upstairs. But we also use it for other reasons, and we have kids that are coming in and out of there temporarily because of different needs and in different things that are happening. So we need to make sure that we have our Odyssey Wear licenses, and that's what's contained in this line. Again, I want to continue to thank the board for supporting the work at the K-2 level around social emotional learning. We've been able to build that up, as you heard, in the schools at Sarah Noble, Schaghticoke, and the high school. I'm looking forward to the writing of the guidance curriculum, which will be presented to be written hopefully over the summer this year. I've asked the guidance department to do some serious investigating of what they think is going well, what needs they think they still have before they sit down and write. I will ask the same of the elementary and the middle school before we come together to write that curriculum. This is just where we get some of our data and some of the things that we do. The good news is, in terms of homelessness, we're down to 6 students as of January 2nd. And if you look, at one point, we had 13 kids. My district is in constant contact with the schools, who are in constant contact with the families, just to kind of reevaluate where families are and see what else we can do for them. And then, moving away from general instruction, would you like to move into adult ed? I feel like I should give you that option. Adult ed, there's 3 slides.
Yeah, we need to.
Okay. So adult education. So here's the staffing of the adult education department. It's myself as the program director. We have a program facilitator. I have the adult education evaluator, who I am incredibly thankful for because the facilitator does not have the credentials to be able to evaluate the teachers in that program. I do, and I was going over there at night evaluating all the teachers after working during the day. And the person who is in this role has done a tremendous job of working in conjunction with the facilitator to go in, do evaluations, and provide feedback. And because many of our teachers teach in adult ed and they also teach with us during the day, they're getting the same messaging that they're hearing during the school day. So we've really created a successful transition. No matter where you're working, the expectations are the same for adult learners as they are for kids. And we'll do the same for you in adult ed as we would during our day school, as much as we possibly can. We have our mandated teaching staff for our general education development, the GED, and the high school diploma programs. And then there's the enrichment offerings that also come out of the adult ed staffing. In 17-18, you can see going down the left, those are the program supports that we've had. If you look to the right, and I actually wish I put this in a chart, but hindsight's always 20/20. The numbers on the right are significantly increasing, and that's a good thing. So when we look at English as a second language, there's 60 to 70 students enrolled in those programs. What I have seen an increase of, because I can look at the number of kids that are entering our high school, exiting our high school, and entering into adult ed because they're age eligible, we're seeing that more and more students at our high school are in need of something more. And they're going to adult ed because they want to get citizenship, they want to maybe earn a degree faster because they can see the number of credits that we have, and they're trying to obtain language at the same time that they're trying to obtain credits. It's something that, as I said, is a need, but we're having difficulty meeting it with our current staffing levels. We would like to retain them as much as possible, so I just wanted you to know that I'm keeping an eye on that, as is Mr. Shagru, and trying to come up with ways to keep kids there if we can. But we're graduating kids from adult ed with a high school diploma. I would love for this, and here's a nice advocacy point with our state representative. I would love for the adult education diploma to count towards our graduation number. Those students are graduating with a New Milford High School diploma, yet they're not counting in our count because they're not in that cohort. Or they are in the cohort, but they're not counting in the count. They're counting as dropouts or transitioning.
Question.
Yes.
Are those students of ours that have dropped out and then return, or are they adults who come back to get their high school diploma?
So it's a mix.
Okay.
It's a mix. What Greg and I see, because we sit down and evaluate that data quite often, what we notice is that it's usually kids that will come to us from another district where the state credit requirement hasn't really been maximized yet. So right now, districts are in different places. So they may have been on track to graduate in a former district, but then they'll come to us and we have 26 credits. So they may need more than they care to do at the high school level, and sometimes they're going to age out. Or they don't feel comfortable being in the high school because of their age, and they feel more comfortable in the adult ed setting. So there's various factors, but we do try to keep an eye on that to see like what more can we do to kind of keep you in day school. As much as I love adult ed and I oversee it, I also want to keep kids in our high school as much as I can. And the enrichment opportunities they've doubled. So kudos to the adult education staff, the enrichment staff, and to the facilitator there. She's doing a really wonderful job. If you see her, please say some positive things that you've seen on these slides. This is really the last slide. We have worked very hard to, again, connect the work that's happening in adult ed with opportunities for our kids during the school day. So the facilitator brought in the American Job Center. They're on site once a month. All of our high school kids have access to the American Job Center. They can ask them all sorts of questions, like what kinds of jobs are available if they're work eligible and they have their papers. Here's what I'm interested in. What's out there right now, or what do you project is the job of the future? What's upcoming, and what could I do to kind of ready myself? The facilitator's done a wonderful job of really looking at coursework leading to certifications. And we have begun the work of having an online system where when the facilitator does the analysis of where a student's current credits are, we can lead them to kind of look into certifications that they might be qualified for based on the number of credits that they have and the courses that they've taken either inside or outside of adult education. We've incorporated online hands-on classroom instruction. So we've got CPR, the certified nursing assistant.
Yeah, I know.
I was leaving no stone unturned. Reiki, Safe Serve, culinary, customer service, so there's a nice variety there of what we offer. We have the use of the virtual high school to supplement offerings for both high school and general education development. Again, that's only available to adult ed. It can only be available to adult ed. And we have that continued availability of that, the ESL classes. She's worked with me to develop in the principals, the family literacy component, and the parent partnerships in New Milford. You saw a reduction in the adult ed overall budget last year because we actually took out the director position of adult ed. And then I did share with you when we received the grant funding from the state that there was a direct impact because we lessened the amount of money that we were providing to the adult ed budget, so they then reduced the money that we would receive. So we've had to make adjustments, so that's on top of what you see in adjustments to the adult ed budget.
Thank you. Okay, if the board's leisure, we can ask questions this evening, or we can recess the next
We
meeting.
still have public participation, so I
We
think
do-
we need to
we
do
do
that.
have public-
And then ask questions is my suggestion next time.
Next meeting?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we do, yeah, public participate. We better have some public out there, though. Any other questions or comments?
So if we have questions for this evening, because I have many, so I can submit them in writing rather than wait until Tuesday?
That's correct, but we
Okay.
would like the answers going to everybody.
Of course.
So just-
And that goes across the board for others who ask
Correct.
questions, the
Yeah,
answers should
if
go to
there's any
everyone.
questions, and they may be duplicated, please know that they'll go to all board members accordingly, assuming they'll get answered. I mean, that didn't come out right. Assuming they can be answered promptly.
We will do our best to
We
keep
still
up
have a
with you.
school system to run, is my point.
Oh, I forgot about that.
So,
That's what you're supposed to do.
Alicia, thank you. You covered a lot of important ground with that, and appreciate not only the presentation, but the work that goes under it.
Thank you.
Take a drink.
okay, so is there any public participation? Anyone care to comment? Oh, come on, please. Thank you. Yes, please. We'll just need your name and address for the record.
Okay. My name is Betsy Stewart. I live at 237 Willow Springs in New Milford. I actually am one of the coaches. I'm the instructional coach at Scatacoke. And I just wanted to reiterate what Alicia said. I am in a very precarious position when it comes to curriculum. Scatacoke has onboarded a lot of new units of study from Lucy Calkins. And when I unpack those units or go into the units deeper with the teachers to fully understand and to fully look at the curricular implications for the students, when questions come up, I am at a standstill when it comes to making curricular changes. Teachers many people like instant answers, and unfortunately I can't give those right away, and then it takes a few days or time for me to get a hold of Alicia before I can move forward. So just kind of looking at that director position is just something I wanted you to keep in mind, because Scatacoke and I'm sure the rest of the staff in New Milford are working so hard to kind of understand the units of study, and it definitely is a little bit of a hiccup when we have to go to Alicia for questions about curriculum. The other thing I just wanted to say is thank you for giving me the opportunity to go to TC training, because I am going to the coaches study or the Coaches Institute on Sunday. So I'm very excited, because then I get to bring that new learning back. So thank you for supporting those initiatives in your budget, because that's a lot of great learning that I could bring back at the global level for Scatacoke. So I really appreciate it. That was it.
Thank you.
Is there any other comment? Okay, at this point, we will recess until next Tuesday, January 29th, 2019, 7 o'clock. Thank you, everybody.